Chapter 1154. Bai Jie's face was terrifyingly gloomy. He thought back to the battle just now. All sorts of strange phenomena had appeared on Mu Yu's body. From Mu Yu's Deadwood Evergreen's desperation to the Fey King's domain, Bai Jie had always thought that Mu Yu had used the Jade Pendant and the others to display their domains. This was because Darching stage experts could use other people's domains. As long as Deadwood Evergreen and the other Fey Kings sealed their domains for Mu Yu would be able to display their domains. However, from the moment Mu Yu displayed Bai Jie's domain, Bai Jie had already realized that something was wrong. Bai Jie couldn't seal his domain and give it to Mu Yu. Mu Yu wasn't using a magic treasure to display his domain. He was copying someone else's domain. It had to be known that although Bai Jie could use other spiriters' domains, that was because he had the Sumeru sun-changing diagram. He could imprint his own people's aura, but the prerequisite was that those spiriters had to willingly hand over their aura. He wasn't like Mu Yu, who only needed a bit of time to display someone else's domain. "What is your domain?" Bai Jie asked coldly. "I won't let you die knowing." Mu Yu didn't like to tell his opponent about his background. There was no need for that. It was fine as long as he knew his own trump card. Why explain it to his opponent? The formation runes on his body surged again. Yu Chenkuan's domain had already covered Chengyang and the others. It was the same domain. This time, Mu Yu and the others would no longer feel powerless. He controlled Bai Jie's domain, which was equivalent to directly crippling Bai Jie's domain. "There are strong and weak domains. Even if you can use my domain, I will make you wish you were dead." Bai Jie's gaze was vicious as he looked at Mu Yu. The war hammer in his hand had already turned into a spear and stabbed towards Mu Yu. This long spear condensed from starlight brought about a violent wave of air, as though the air was being rapidly compressed. The tip of the spear was incomparably sharp, capable of turning even dust into nothingness. The void trembled once again, as though the sky was about to collapse. Rumbling sounds rang out incessantly, causing everyone's heart to palpitate. The spear pierced down, its sharpness unstoppable. Mu Yu and the others held the celestial swords again. The celestial swords shined brightly. The sword intents of the 5 celestial swords gathered together and formed a point that contained endless killing intent. The 5 of them had the same idea. The 5 celestial swords connected at this moment. The swords hummed and clashed with Bai Jie's spear. Boom! A destructive aura swept out once again. Smoke and dust billowed, and rays of light shone brightly. Countless streams of spiritual energy swept out, making earth-shattering noises. Mu Yu and the others flew back a few hundred meters, and Bai Jie also retreated a few dozen meters. The combined attack of the 5 of them only caused Bai Jie to retreat a few dozen meters. Even though Bai Jie's domain was restrained by Mu Yu, his strength was still not to be underestimated. "You can use other people's domains, right? Then I want to see how many domains you can use at the same time." Bai Jie had already thought of Mu Yu's domain. Although he was not very clear what Mu Yu's domain was, Mu Yu needed some time to use his domain. This meant that Mu Yu's domain was not perfect. Shua, Shua, Shua. The 43 strange races appeared once again in the air. This time, everyone no longer looked down on them. Originally, there were 50 strange races, but 7 of them had been killed. The strength of the third heaven human and demon race was not something they dared to look down on anymore. "Use your strongest domain to kill them," Bai Jie shouted angrily. The 43 strange races spread out and surrounded Mu Yu and the others. Their bodies lit up with all kinds of lights at the same time, and each of them condensed their own domain. The domain displayed by the 43 strange races had reached a terrifying level. Bai Jie could only use the sky-stealing sun-swapping painting to change the domain of one person at a time. However, this time, the 43 Mahayana stage strange races were gathered together. The superposition of the 43 domains caused the entire void to become incomparably hot. The aura of the domain could destroy the heavens and the earth, causing the faces of all the enslaved people on the 3 continents to change drastically. Even a god would not be able to save them from such a joint domain. The faces of Chengyang and the others changed. Everyone's breathing became heavy. Tian Rant's clear lotus appeared again, wanting to protect everyone. Mu Yu's eyes glowed with black and white light as he looked coldly at Bai Jie. His eyes flickered with an awe-inspiring fighting spirit. This time, let's see how you're going to block it. Bai Jie's gaze fell on Mu Yu, and a trace of greed appeared in his eyes. He wanted to capture Mu Yu and figure out what his domain was. Then, he would snatch his domain. The 43 strange races domains, in addition to the Mahayana stage domain displayed by Bai Jie, had a total of 44 domains. All of them smashed towards them at the same time. Domain, Mo Luo Curse. Domain, Corpse Fern Dance. Domain, Bone Fiend Mountain Alliance. Domain, 10,000 Ghost Shadows. Domain, Purple-Winged Heavenly Silkworm Frost. The multicolored and powerful domains came crashing down. These domains might not be afraid of the few of them, but with 44 domains, it was impossible for them to resist. It's over. The true God's disciple is probably going to die this time. Is there really no one to save us? Is this world really going to belong to the strange races? In all the cities of the 3 continents, the humans who were enslaved by the strange races all shook their heads and sighed. They all looked up at the starry sky, watching this terrifying duel. The true God was not here, and his disciple had not truly matured. Facing the powerful Mahayana stage strange races, the true God's disciple was still at a disadvantage. The legend of this fellow disciple was probably going to end here. Despair spread through everyone's hearts. Even though they had fallen to the bottom of the abyss a year ago, ever since Mu Yu and the others returned from the ancient battlefield, hope had been ignited in their hearts. They were waiting for the true God's disciple to lead them out of this abyss of misery. Unfortunately, no matter how monstrous the strength of the true God's disciple was, he was still not a match for Bai Jie and the strange races that Bai Jie led. Was darkness really going to descend upon this world? However, Mu Yu suddenly leaped out, blocking in front of Chengyang and the others. The chaotic yin and yang in front of his chest was already spinning faster and faster. One black and one white, 2 ancient qi flowed endlessly. Following which, a green light shot out from the black and white vortex, covering Mu Yu's body. At the same time, the heart-seeking guide once again coiled around his hand, giving him a different kind of solemnity. Spiritless void immortal. Mu Yu snorted. The searing rod of conscience in her hands rippled with spirit runes, spreading out like a spiderweb, covering all the foreign tribesmen and merging into their domains. With the help of the searing rod of conscience and the heavenly rule of the Tao treasure, this domain was not inferior to the 44 domains in the slightest. Wang. It was like the evening drum and morning bell that came from the distant void, forming an invisible and domineering giant hand that easily flattened the violent winds and huge waves of the sea. The violent domains of the 44 foreign races actually all disappeared in an instant, as if they could no longer raise any waves. The entire world fell silent. Whether it was the strange races or the human race, they all fell silent. No one dared to breathe loudly, all stunned by the scene before them. All the humans were in disbelief, and all the strange races were shocked beyond words. These strange races still maintained their domains in their hands. Their domains had already left, surging towards Mu Yu and the others. However, in an instant, these powerful domains seemed to have disappeared mysteriously. Many non-humankind beings paused in shock even before the ferocious looks on their faces faded. They seemed to have lost the ability to think, and couldn't react at all. Why had their domains suddenly disappeared like a stone sinking into the sea? Chengyang and the others also looked at Mu Yu in confusion. They had never heard of Mu Yu using this domain before. Mu Yu panted, his eyes filled with determination. Only he knew what this domain meant. Spirit extinction no immortal. In this domain, all spells would be ineffective, including the power of domains. Mu Yu borrowed the power of the heart-questioning attraction to unleash the spirit extinction no immortal domain to the extreme, far surpassing the level of a normal Great Ascension stage cultivator's domains. He had single-handedly destroyed the 44 domains of the strange races. All the spectators on the 3 continents were in an uproar. None of them had thought that Mu Yu would still have this hidden card up his sleeve. Mu Yu had single-handedly destroyed 44 domains. This kind of powerful strength allowed everyone to see the light of hope again. Spirit extinction no immortal, Ran Hengshi. You even know Ran Hengshi's domain. Bai Jie glared fiercely at Mu Yu. Ran Hengshi. Spirit extinction no immortal was Ran Hengshi's domain. One of the 9 immortals. It's actually him. This time, even Mu Yu couldn't help but be moved. This was because he didn't know that spirit extinction no immortal was Ran Hengshi's domain. The reason why he learned this domain was mainly because when he was in the demon subduing pagoda, there was a layer of spirit extinction no immortal that guarded the domain. At that time, Mu Yu had relied on the spirit extinction no immortal to lure Gui Xianming in from the gate of hell and separate his body. Mu Yu had a very deep impression of this domain. This domain was enough to turn anyone into a mortal, without any cultivation, spirit energy, or spells. When Mu Yu used Yu Chenkuan to learn domains in Flowing Water Village, he focused on learning this domain. However, there were strong and weak domains. Even if he could control this domain, it was still quite difficult for him to face 44 domains of the strange races at the same time. If not for the heart-questioning attraction suddenly appearing to help him, even if he used this domain, he wouldn't have been able to block it. Chapter 1155. The 44 domains were broken, but Mu Yu and the others were not happy. Bai Jie had a powerful Dao artifact, so it was impossible for him to be restricted by spirit extinction without immortal so easily. After losing their spirit power, all the strange races in the sky could no longer fly and began to fall to the ground. Spirit extinction without immortal had completely controlled their cultivation. At this time, Chengyang and the others took advantage of the moment when all the strange races were stunned. They had already grasped the heavenly sword in their hands and leaped into the air. Their falling dust steps flashed as they slashed towards the strange races. Chengyang and the others were also restricted by the spirit extinction without immortal's domain. They could not use their own domains, but even if they did not use spirit power, they could still use the light and nimble falling dust steps and the sword in their hands to kill the strange races. Shua. Chengyang rushed to the front. With a raise of his hand, the erosion-cleansing sword slashed towards a corpse race person that had just fallen to the ground, directly chopping off his head. Luo Shong, Xiong Nan, and Tian Ran were not willing to fall behind. They used their powerful sword techniques to kill a strange race person. In the blink of an eye, 4 Great Ascension Stage strange races were dead. Bai Jie roared. The powerful Shumi sun-changing diagram had already begun to condense countless starlight on his body. He swung his sword high up in the air. With a crash, Mu Yu's spirit extinction without immortal domain could not withstand the pressure of the Dao artifact and shattered. Spirit power once again returned to everyone's body. The shocked strange races immediately flew up from the ground and dodged Chengyang and the others' sword techniques. Mu Yu retreated and stood together with Chengyang and the others. You should have used this domain earlier, Luo Shong said in a deep voice. If Mu Yu had used this domain in the starry sky, then with the help of the Great Ascension Stage human experts, he would have killed half of the strange races. Mu Yu shook his head. I was only able to use this domain with the help of the Heart Questioning Guide. I didn't know that the Heart Questioning Guide would guide me. Even if Mu Yu's domain ability was strong, he was only one person after all. It was too difficult for him to use his domain on more than 50 Grand Ascension Stage outsiders. If it wasn't for the help of the heart-seeking technique, perhaps as long as there were 7 or 8 Grand Ascension Stage outsiders, it would be enough to resist Mu Yu with their own domain and break free from the restrictions of spirit extinction. I will never give you another chance. This time, Bai Jie was staring at Mu Yu. Because of his carelessness, Mu Yu had used spirit extinction without immortal, and he had lost 4 Great Ascension Stage foreign tribesmen. He had already borrowed all the power of the Sumeru sun-changing diagram to suppress Mu Yu and the others. Mu Yu wasn't the master of the Heart Questioning Guide, so he couldn't really use it to resist the Sumeru sun-changing diagram. At this time, Bai Jie was already prepared. The power of the Sumeru sun-changing diagram was far beyond their imagination. All of the outsiders roared angrily. They had been tricked by Mu Yu's domain, and they were already filled with resentment. Everyone once again lit up with the power of their domains. Including Bai Jie, the aura of 40 domains once again gathered at one point. Die for me. Bai Jie roared and rushed towards Mu Yu and the others. When Mu Yu's spirit extinction no immortal domain swept out, the Sumeru sun changing diagram had already forced it back. The faces of Mu Yu and the others sank again. This time, if they couldn't rely on spirit extinction no immortal, they would have to face the 40 domains head-on. Everyone could feel the seriousness of the situation. Danger had descended once again. They had been forced into a desperate situation by the Sumeru sun changing diagram. Now, they could only give it their all. Green runes flashed under Mu Yu's feet. The wind-wind heart-linking formation connected the 5 of them together. Everyone's minds were connected, and the sword light in their hands became even brighter. Facing Bai Jie, everyone was prepared to perish indiscriminately. 9 heavenly sword guides, 1 sword against 10,000 techniques. The 5 heavenly swords merged into the void, forcibly resisting each other. Biting cold sword intent suddenly erupted, forming a sword light. The sword light streaked across the void, illuminating the entire sky. It forcibly opened up a path in the powerful domain. Boom! The sword technique collided with the domain. At the moment when the sword intent exploded, Luo Shong's flames formed a cold light that enveloped everyone. Within the flames was the powerful metal controlled by Cheng Yang. Within the metal was Xiong Nan's sword Shadow's stone wall. Within the stone wall was Mu Yu's trees, and Tianran's golden lotus was the last layer of defense. The 5 people's abilities were wrapped in layers, forcibly forming a copper wall of defense, tenaciously clashing with the domain of the strange races. 40 various powerful laws all smashed onto their walls. Mu Yu and the others were instantly sent flying. The 5 of them had already merged into their respective metal spirit, fire spirit, earth spirit, and Mu Ling at the critical moment. However, the terrifying fluctuations produced by the 40 powerful domains directly passed through these powerful 5 elements magic treasures, causing them to take a hit. The 5 elements magic treasures were very hard magic treasures. In the past, they had relied on these magic treasures to avoid damage. However, when facing a great ascension stage expert, hiding in the magic treasures was useless. Bang! 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 Whether it was Luo Shong's sea of flames, Cheng Yan's metal, Xiong Nan's earth and rocks, or Mu Yu's trees, they were all shattered. After receiving a huge impact, everyone's aura withered. The violent aura wrapped all of them in it. The airwaves rolled, and the place where they were was no longer alive. There was no aura coming from the center of the explosion. It was as if Mu Yu and the others were directly killed by the explosion. There was no possibility of survival. The place was distorted by a powerful and terrifying fluctuation, and it did not recover for a long time. Are they dead? A bone race person asked. This was the question of all the strange races present. They had paid a painful price to come here today. They were also shocked by Mu Yu's powerful domain ability. If the domain ability of 40 great ascension stage experts was not enough to kill these people, then these strange races would find it difficult to accept. All the humans on the 3 continents looked at the center of the explosion in fear. Being swept by 40 powerful domains, it was impossible for anyone else to survive. Looks like the real obstacle has finally been removed. The lower 3rd layer of the heavens is finally ours. Haha. A soul race person laughed arrogantly. All the strange races laughed wildly in the air. They looked at the center of the explosion with contempt and viciousness. A total of 11 great ascension stage experts had died in the hands of Mu Yu and the others. It was impossible to say that they were not resentful. But soon, all the strange races stopped laughing because the distorted center of the explosion began to return to normal. And when the smoke and dust dissipated, a tall mountain peak appeared in front of them. The mountain peak was full of vitality. Bees and butterflies danced in the air. The grass was long and the birds were flying. There was also a waterfall pouring down from the peak. It was peaceful but vast and majestic. Such a mountain peak appeared in the wasteland that had been destroyed thousands of times. It was especially eye-catching. Tao Artifact, Heavenly Birth Reincarnation Peak. If you really think that we can be defeated so easily, then you are very wrong. At the top of the Heavenly Birth Reincarnation Peak, the 5 of them stood upright like javelins. Their clothes fluttered in the wind as each of their faces carried a trace of determination and contempt. They were filled with murderous intent towards the foreign races. The Heavenspill reincarnation peak transformed into its original form at the critical moment and protected Mu Yu and the others, forcibly blocking the 40 domain attack. Damn Dao artifact. Bai Jie was furious. It was already very heaven-defying for him to be able to control a single Dao artifact, but Mu Yu and the others had several. Whether it was the heart-questioning attraction or the Heavenspill reincarnation peak, they were all rare treasures in the world. This made him very jealous. Although the Heavenspill reincarnation peak did not have the chaotic yin and yang, and the heart-questioning attraction did not recognize Mu Yu as its master, the power it could unleash was very strong. Even if it could not destroy the Sumeru sun-changing diagram, it was enough to protect Mu Yu and the others from harm. However, you have a Dao artifact but do not know how to unleash its true power. It will only bury it. Let's see how long you can last before the Sumeru sun-changing diagram, Bai Jie said coldly. The Sumeru sun-changing diagram once again condensed a powerful starlight and smashed down on the Heavenspill reincarnation peak. The Heavenspill reincarnation peak emitted a faintly discernible golden array pattern. This array pattern was the so close, yet worlds apart array pattern. It was this aura that had protected everyone just now. The Sumeru sun-changing diagram was very powerful in Bai Jie's hands. It slammed into the Heavenspill reincarnation peak, causing it to tremble slightly. Soon, cracks began to appear in the sky above the Heavenspill reincarnation peak. Without the chaotic yin and yang, it could not completely block the Sumeru sun-changing diagram. Mu Yu and the others frowned slightly as they thought of a plan to deal with it. However, at that moment, two angry voices suddenly came from the sky. Brother Kong Kong, someone is attacking our nest. This is too much. Sister Meow Meow, don't worry. Brother will kill them. Two figures tore through the void and appeared in the sky above the wasteland. Then, they landed in front of Mu Yu and the others. They were the restless twins of the Luochen Mountain, Kong Kong and Meow Meow. You two. Why are you here? Mu Yu and the others were pleasantly surprised to see Kong Kong and Meow Meow, who had grown taller. Both Kong Kong and Meow Meow were wearing clean short shirts. Their skin was fair and tender, which made them look very lovable. Mu Yu and the others did not expect that Kong Kong and Meow Meow, who had been missing for a long time, would appear at this time. Moreover, it seemed that their cultivation levels had increased greatly. And Shu brought us here. He said that there are some fun Japanese people here to fight. Kong Kong winked mischievously. Yes, we are here to fight the Japanese people. Meow Meow said seriously. The two of them were only at the form synthesis stage, which was not enough to deal with so many mysterious tribesmen at the great vehicle stage. However, their identities were not simple. They were the chaotic yin and yang of the Heavenspill reincarnation peak. And Shu is here? Where is he? Cheng Yang asked hurriedly. Here. The void trembled again. Then, a figure appeared in the sky and looked at everyone expressionlessly. Mu Yu and the others looked at Uncle An in surprise. Suddenly, there was a storm in their hearts because the aura that appeared on Uncle An's body was the fluctuation of the great vehicle stage. Chapter 1156. The shock that Shu's appearance brought to Mu Yu and the others was incomparable. In the impression of Mu Yu and the others, Shu had always been at the Jindan period. His face was expressionless and he was extremely strict with them every day. He would also punish them with terrible cooking skills. Everyone's impression of Shu was one of reverence. But no one would have thought that Shu would appear here at this time, and he would actually appear as a great ascension stage cultivator. How much was Shu hiding? Mu Yu looked at Cheng Yang. He remembered that Cheng Yang said that he had seen Shu once last time. At that time, Shu's cultivation was only at the Jindan period, but how did he become a great ascension stage cultivator at this time? But Cheng Yan's eyes were also full of puzzlement. He obviously couldn't figure it out. Shu stood in the void and stared coldly at Bai Jie. Bai Jie also stared at Shu. Ran Hengshi, you actually came to die at this time, Bai Jie sneered. As soon as Bai Jie's voice fell, everyone was stunned. What? Ran Hengshi, Anshu was Ran Hengshi? Mu Yu and the others thought that they had heard wrong. How could Anshu be Ran Hengshi? One of the 9 immortals was actually Anshu. No one knew about this, but Bai Jie actually knew about it. Anshu still said expressionlessly, "I'm not here to die, I'm here to bury you." Anshu's tone was neither sad nor happy. No one could hear any meaning at all, but everyone in Luochen Mountain felt an involuntary shudder because every time Anshu spoke in this tone, it meant that they would face severe punishment. Mu Yu and the others had too many questions in their hearts. They couldn't understand why Anshu was a great ascension stage cultivator. If he was a great ascension stage cultivator, why was he able to survive in the immortal confining prison back in the Moyun mountain range? One had to know that the immortal confining prison was a powerful formation technique that could kill anyone whose cultivation surpassed Mu Yu's master. But Anshu didn't seem to have any intention of explaining, and the others didn't ask. Everyone's attention was on Bai Jie. Defeating Bai Jie was the most important thing now. "You want to bury me? What gives you the right?" Bai Jie looked at Zhon Hanshi coldly. Zhon Hanshi gave him a very strong feeling, but it was far from enough to make him feel fear. "By the heavenly sword." Anshu turned his gaze to Mu Yu and the others. He waved his hand and the other 4 heavenly swords suddenly appeared in the void. The heavenly swords trembled slightly and emitted a strange fluctuation. Mu Yu's heart moved. He found that his shadow swords had unknowingly gained a trace of soul. It was as if 9 brothers had met and were resonating with each other. Not only Mu Yu, but Chengyang and the others also felt that the swords in their hands seemed to have some subtle changes. 9 heavenly swords? Impossible. Lord Heaven Keeper said that 2 of the 9 heavenly swords were sealed by him. You can't have them. When Bai Jie saw the 4 heavenly swords in Anshu's hand, his heart turned cold. He knew better than anyone what 9 heavenly swords meant because it was an existence that even Heaven Keeper was extremely afraid of. Little Shuai, who had been lying on Mu Yu's shoulder, suddenly stood up. He looked at the 4 heavenly swords around Anshu and then looked at the shadow swords in Mu Yu's hand. He scratched his head and touched Mu Yu in confusion. He said, "Mu Yu, I feel like I have remembered something." "What did you remember?" Mu Yu asked. Little Shuai shook his head. "I don't know. My mind is in a mess." Many memories flashed past. "Heavenly sword, I feel like it's the heavenly sword." "Heavenly sword. Give me the shadow swords." Mu Yu hesitated for a moment before handing the shadow swords to Little Shuai. Little Shuai grabbed the shadow swords with his little claws. The moment he grabbed the shadow swords, Little Shuai's white fur suddenly stood on end. He was filled with powerful sword intent. It was as if he had turned into a hedgehog filled with sword intent. Mu Yu couldn't help but feel a chill on his neck. "Little Shuai, you." Mu Yu turned his head in shock. Little Shuai's entire body floated up. His sapphire-like eyes suddenly became extremely deep. They were like vast stars, as if they contained an entire world. Whoosh, whoosh. The heavenly swords in Chengyang, Luo Shong, Xiongnan, and Tianran's hands involuntarily flew out and landed on Little Shuai's feet. The 4 heavenly swords next to Anshu also flew over. The 9 heavenly swords were like brothers who hadn't seen each other in a long time. They happily revolved around Little Shuai. Pure erosion, heaven burning, stargazing, shadow swords, clear ice, immortal dew, strange howl, light string, and rainbow light. The 9 heavenly swords all had different sword lights. They were cold and sharp. Little Shuai flashed around the 9 flying heavenly swords. Each heavenly sword that he stepped on would create ripples. Little Shuai's aura would become stronger. After he stepped on all 9 heavenly swords, the lights of the 9 heavenly swords suddenly converged. However, their aura became even stronger. "Anshu, what's wrong with Little Shuai?" Mu Yu asked. Anshu calmly said, "The strongest magic treasure in this world is not a Tao treasure. It is the 9 heavenly swords." Buzz. As soon as Anshu finished speaking, Little Shuai's body became extremely hazy. It was as if he was covered by a fog, making it impossible to tell if he was real or not. His entire body exuded a sharp sword aura. He was different from his usual playful self. Sword intent burst out from his body. His small body seemed to contain a terrifying volcano. Boom! The 9 heavenly swords soared into the sky and rotated in the air. They actually merged into one. Meanwhile, little Shuai had already disappeared into the field. This sword carried the characteristics of the 9 heavenly swords. A golden light bloomed from the sword, becoming the focus of the world. The entire void was trembling. It was almost impossible to stabilize. A terrifying aura surged out with the heavenly sword as the center. Mu Yu, quickly kill the little white ghost with me. Little Shuai's distant voice came from the heavenly sword. The aura of this heavenly sword rotated and landed on Mu Yu's body. Little Shuai chose Mu Yu because he was the most familiar with her. The two of them flirted all day long and had long reached the point where they could read each other's minds. With just a glance, they could understand what the other wanted to say. Mu Yu flew up without hesitation. He passed through the divine aura of the heavenly sword and grabbed the hilt of the heavenly sword. The moment he grabbed the heavenly sword, he felt as if the world had stopped again. It was as if he was holding a world. The sword in his hand was no longer just a sword. It was a universe with endless life. Everything in the world, including the reversal of the universe, was on this sword. And Mu Yu himself seemed to have become the ruler of the world. With a swing of his sword, the world was destroyed. With a swing of his sword, all things were towering. This heavenly sword represented everything. He could use the heavenly sword to sever all karma in the world. He could reshape the laws of the world. He represented the world. Everyone would prostrate at his feet. Once the heavenly sword appeared, no one dared to compete. Mu Yu's body was enveloped by the golden sword light. He had already seen little Shuai's heart. Little Shuai was like a child who did not know the ways of the world. He had a powerful sword intent, but he had sealed all of it away. At this time, the 9 swords became one. Little Shuai was the sword spirit. He had returned and merged with the heavenly sword. He controlled the vast world and the ethereal heavenly Tao. Mu Yu now understood just how powerful the 9 heavenly swords were. The moment the 9 swords became one, Bai Jie's expression changed. He clearly felt a trace of fear appear in the Sumeru sun-changing painting. It was as if he had seen his nemesis. The originally insufferably powerful aura was gradually suppressed by the heavenly sword in Mu Yu's hand. There was only one absolute powerhouse in this world, and that was the heavenly sword. It's time for us to settle this. Mu Yu's eyes glowed with a black and white light as he stared at Bai Jie. This time, he did not use any superfluous moves. He simply thrust out his sword. This sword cut open a pitch-black crack in space. It could not even be healed. With a slash of her sword, the Sumeru sun-shifting diagram's desolate plains immediately crumbled. The stars in the sky returned to everyone's eyes. The demon kings and Deadwood, who had been restrained by Jie's Sumeru sun-shifting diagram, also broke through the obstruction and looked at Mu Yu in shock. That person, that sword, became the only focus of the world. This is the real heavenly sword. Dead Tree was slightly shocked. He had clearly seen this sword before. Although he did not like Jianying Chenfeng, he did not deny the power of Jianying Chenfeng. Jianying Chenfeng's 9 heavenly swords became one. There was nothing in the world that could block this sword. All the enslaved humans on the 3 continents also looked at the sword in the sky in bewilderment. They were also subdued by the might of the sky sword. The terror of the sky sword was beyond everyone's imagination. It was a majesty that could not be profaned. It made people tremble and submit to it from the depths of their bones. Crash! The stars in the sky summoned by the Sumeru sun-changing painting suddenly shattered like porcelain. It was a powerful Tao artifact, but it was unable to withstand the heavenly sword in Mu Yu's hand. The heavenly sword's power had long overshadowed the Sumeru sun-changing painting. This Tao artifact was actually trembling in front of the heavenly sword. Bai Jie's face was already ashen. He did not expect such a situation to occur. He never expected that all the heavenly swords would be gathered together. As for the strange races, their faces were filled with extreme fear. They were trembling. Their entire bodies were trembling. No one dared to look down on the heavenly sword. Even the arrogant and domineering strange races. Any strange race that dares to invade the 3 continents must die. Mu Yu's heavenly sword slashed down at all the great vehicle stage strange races who were in a daze. His movements were not fast. Everyone could clearly see the trajectory of his sword. However, the sword intent in his hand was very fast. It was so fast that it was unimaginable. No one could keep up with the speed of the sword intent slaughter. All the great vehicle stage strange races were terrified. They wanted to escape, but they realized that they could not. They did not even have the courage to escape. The heavenly sword's power could destroy the heavens and earth. Whoever it wanted to kill would not be able to live. Bang! 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 All the great vehicle stage strange races' bodies gradually turned into ashes. Under the terrifying power of the heavenly sword, they were annihilated into nothingness. Not even a trace of them was left. Chapter 1157. Bai Jie was infuriated. Mu Yu's heavenly sword slashed down and killed all the great ascension stage foreign races. The might of the heavenly sword was terrifying. The enslaved humans were filled with boundless hope. They had witnessed the strongest sword in the world. The sword technique was unstoppable. That sword was reflected in everyone's mind and could not be calmed down for a long time. Mu Yu's heart was filled with pride. The 9 heavenly swords combined into one, and the power was beyond his imagination. This sword was enough to pose a threat to the Sumeru sun-changing painting and kill all the great ascension stage foreign races. It could even destroy the Sumeru sun-changing painting. You're next. Mu Yu raised the heavenly sword in his hand again. The heavenly sword's divine might was vast and mighty. It fell from the sky and brought with it a strong wind that destroyed the void. The sword light was boundless and illuminated the entire sky. The sound of the sword chi tearing through the void was endless. The starry sky created by the Sumeru sun-changing painting began to collapse. Bai Jie roared. The Sumeru sun-changing painting condensed a powerful starry light and formed a starry sword intent in his hand. He faced Mu Yu's heavenly sword head-on. He had to fight because he could not dodge this sword and could only take it head-on. The 2 terrifying sword intents clashed and an earth-shattering explosion erupted. Violent shockwaves rolled out and turned the surroundings into ashes. The starry sky had already exploded and all the starry light was turned into dust by the sword chi. The barrier created by the Sumeru sun-changing painting had completely collapsed and could no longer withstand the might of the heavenly sword. Dark clouds appeared in all directions. The Sumeru sun-changing painting had been broken. Everyone rushed out of the Sumeru sun-changing diagram. The wind and clouds surged in the sky, and the dark clouds swept violently, forming a vortex. Blue lightning roared like thunder, splitting open a huge gap in the sky. The golden sword intent shook the entire vast sky, and the sky trembled violently as if the sky was about to collapse. Boom! An earth-shattering explosion occurred. Waves of energy surged out and turned into a ripple. It flattened the entire territory of the Pill Cauldron sect, flattening the surrounding mountains. Only the opening cauldron let out a clear cry and stabilized itself, protecting everyone and the entrance of the Pill Cauldron sect. Everyone nervously looked at the center of the explosion. They wanted to know the final result of this battle. This would also determine the fate of everyone in the 3rd layer of heaven. After the explosion, the smoke and dust dispersed. Bai Jie was still standing in the air. His face was filled with resentment and hatred. He stared at Mu Yu with his venomous eyes. It was as if he wanted to eat Mu Yu alive, but Mu Yu's sky sword had already pierced through his heart. Sword chi swam through his entire body. His entire body was like a cracked piece of porcelain. He gradually cracked open. Powerful sword will kept shooting out from the cracks in his body. I can't accept this. Bai Jie squeezed out these words. Of course, he couldn't accept this. How could he accept this? Ever since Jian Ying and Chen Feng's cultivation had been consumed by the Immortal's prison, he had taken the opportunity to sneak into this sealed world. He waited for an opportunity to act. Finally, when Jian Ying and Chen Feng were no longer able to contend against him, he began his scheme. He overturned the entire third layer of heaven and seized control of the perfect land and mountains. He controlled the entire third layer of heaven. However, he never expected that he would still be one step behind. Although Jian Ying and Chen Feng were no longer there, the might of his sky sword was still not something Bai Jie could withstand. Mu Yu's sword slashed down, shattering the scheme he had carefully planned for so many years. You should have known this would happen. Mu Yu coldly pulled back the sky sword. Peng! Bai Jie's body exploded into thousands of pieces, never to reform again. Bai Jie was dead. Dead! Bai Jie was dead. All of the strange races had been destroyed. It was like a lifetime had passed. All of the third layer of heaven's humans were stunned. They could not believe the scene in front of them. They had been enslaved by the strange races for so long. They thought they would never be able to rise again, but they never thought that Mu Yu's sword would pull them back from the bottomless abyss. We are free. Long live the true God. All of the third layer of heaven's humans cheered. Bai Jie had been destroyed. This meant that the enslavement war had ended. They could finally stand up and return to their lives. All the cities on the 3 continents were cheering. Every single enslaved human being had witnessed this powerful battle through the Sumeru sun-shifting painting, which ended their cruel fate of being kept in captivity for a year. Now, they could finally defeat the non-human kind and regain their freedom. As for the strange races, their faces all changed. Bai Jie was dead. No one could fight against Mu Yu, who had the sky sword. They knew they were finished. In the sky above the Pill Cauldron sect, only the Great Ascension Realm experts were left. Little guy, you still dare to fight me? I'll cut you to death. Little Shuai came out of the sky sword again. She was in high spirits. She put her hands on her waist and laughed proudly. The sky sword in Mu Yu's hand had already split into 9 and returned to the hands of others. The remaining 4 sky swords also returned to Enshu's side. The Sumeru sun-changing diagram had already reformed into a scroll. The scroll floated in the air and became an ownerless object. It was a Dao artifact. Although it could not defeat the sky sword, it could not be destroyed by the sky sword. And the formation patterns and restrictions on it were still closely related to the people of the third layer of heaven's people. Is it over? Kumu let out a sigh of relief. He looked at Mu Yu. Just now, they had all witnessed that insufferably arrogant sword in the Sumeru sun-changing diagram. The sky sword had left an extremely deep impression on everyone. Now, as long as we restore the restrictions on Perfect River and Mountain will be able to kill all of the outsiders. This calamity of the third layer of heaven can be considered over, Monster King Azure Dragon said. Everyone looked at Mu Yu and the others in the air. However, Mu Yu and the others did not say anything. Their gazes fell on the Sumeru sun-changing diagram. The wind blew at everyone's clothes, making them flutter. This Dao artifact can control all of the third layer of heaven's people, right? Xiong Nan said slowly. Cheng Yang looked at Xiong Nan with a complicated expression. You still haven't given up on that idea. I only agreed to help you defeat the outsiders. I did not say that I would give up on my plan, Xiong Nan said calmly. Luo Shong, what about you? Cheng Yang asked. Luo Shong was silent for a moment. Then, he looked away. I want to establish my own rules. Cheng Yang looked at Mu Yu. Mu Yu, you as well? Not everyone in the third heavenly layer deserves to be saved. During the invasion of the foreign races, many people became traitors to the human race, trying to curry favor with the foreign races. They shouldn't have survived, Mu Yu said calmly. He did not give up on his plan. Even though the White Realm had been destroyed, they still wanted to carry out their plan. They wanted the third layer of heaven to be governed by their own rules. Only rules could decide who should live and who shouldn't. The third layer of heaven's soul race has already been destroyed. Xiong Nan, you've already avenged yourself. Why can't you let it go? Cheng Yang raised his voice. This is not just a matter of personal grudges. It also involves the nature of humans. The White Realm is dead, but the Heaven's Keeper is still alive. If the Heaven's Keeper sends another White Realm in the future, won't those humans turn against the outsiders again and become their accomplices? Only by controlling them can something like this not happen again, Xiong Nan said stubbornly. What about Mu Yu? If you want to kill those cowardly and selfish people, you'll probably kill half of the humans in the third layer of Heaven's Keeper, Cheng Yang said. Then I'll kill them. Mu Yu did not answer, but Luo Shong answered for him. You will never be able to kill all of these people. Even if you kill all of them, there will be new people born in the future. They will grow up with different influences and become different people. Are you going to kill them one by one? Cheng Yang said angrily. That's why I want to establish my own empire. I'll kill anyone who doesn't follow the rules. Luo Shong said. The atmosphere was very tense. Cheng Yang still could not convince his junior brother. The sword in Cheng Yan's hand trembled slightly. He gritted his teeth and said, no matter what, Master wants to protect this world. I won't allow you to do this. Senior brother, I don't want to do it, but everyone has their own beliefs. Xiong Nan's stargazing sword also shone. Your beliefs are wrong, Cheng Yang shouted. Xiong Nan wanted to control all humans, Luo Shong wanted to establish his own empire, and Mu Yu wanted to kill all human traitors. Any one of their actions would severely limit the development of the human race. And Shu silently looked at Cheng Yang and his junior brother. He did not say anything. And Shu, what do you think? Cheng Yan's last hope was Shu. And Shu's words were second only to their masters in the Dustfall Mountain. And Shu shook his head. You can't kill that many humans in the third layer of heaven, nor can you control them. You can't interfere with the development of the third layer of heaven. Why? Mu Yu, Luo Shong, and Xiong Nan did not agree with Shu's words. For the first time, they wanted to disobey Shu's words. Shu slowly said, because of perfect land and mountain. What does perfect land and mountain have to do with this matter? Mu Yu asked. Ku Mu suddenly said, perfect land and mountain is a powerful protective array formation. Mu Yu, haven't you realized this? It's stronger than blood-shrouding heaven, but its essence is the same. It's also blood-shrouding heaven. Blood-shrouding heaven? Mu Yu was stunned. He looked at Ku Mu, and his heart was in turmoil. Blood-shrouding heaven meant using one's life to protect a person. Mu Yu was very familiar with this. Jian Ying and Chen Feng set up perfect land and mountain. It's equivalent to using their lives to protect this world. His life flows through every human. Ku Mu looked at Mu Yu with a complicated expression. That includes the few of you. Perfect land and mountain was actually such an array formation? And Shu glanced at Ku Mu and said, he's right. The reason why this world was able to develop under the watchful eyes of the foreign races was because of perfect land and mountain. 100,000 years ago, the Heaven's Keeper destroyed the entire third heaven and killed the human race. However, the sect master used his endless life to revive the human race, allowing the human race to continue on. He also sealed the third heaven until today. Everyone in the third heaven was stunned. What flowed through their bodies was Jian Ying and Chen Feng's life. Is Master still alive? Mu Yu clenched his fists. Master had given his life to all the humans. How did these people treat Master now? Life is a cycle. When someone dies, someone will be born. As long as the humans in the third heaven are alive, the sect master's life will not fade away. However, if you interfere, there will be a time when his life will fade away, and Shu said. Where is Master? Mu Yu asked. Mu Yu could not calm down for a long time. He needed an answer. What did the humans in the third heaven mean to his master? Chapter 1158. Bai Jie had been killed, the perfect land and mountain had been reconstructed, and all of the foreign invaders had been killed by the powerful formations of the perfect land and mountain. All of the enslaved people in the cities of the 3 continents had been reborn. Normal life was like a dream to them, and the sun shining on them seemed especially real. The calamity of the foreign invaders had brought them too much pain. Almost everyone was cheering that they had been reborn today. This was a victory brought to them by Jian Ying and Chen Feng. Now, everyone knew this, because Mu Yu's heavenly sword had left an indelible impression on them. But everyone also knew what Jian Ying and Chen Feng had done for them. Every city was holding a lively carnival to celebrate their rebirth. Regardless of whether they were mortals or cultivators, they all gathered together and cried tears of joy. They no longer had to be sucked dry by the foreign invaders day and night, and they no longer had to be reared as livestock. At this moment, there seemed to be no difference between people. There was only a desire for a new life. Today was destined to be a sleepless night. Moryun Mountain Range. Unlike the hustle and bustle of the outside world, Moryun Mountain Range was still peaceful. It was like a paradise, and the foreign invaders had never dared to set foot in this place. The humans of Moryun Mountain Range did not know what had happened in the 3 continents, and they did not know that the people of the 3 continents had gone through the ordeal of being imprisoned. Life in Moryun Mountain Range continued. Luochen Mountain was a picturesque place, and it stood aloof from worldly affairs. When Mu Yu and the others re-entered Luochen Mountain, they saw Feng Haochen plowing the soil in the vegetable garden. Everyone's eyes turned red. "Master," Mu Yu called out. Whether it was Chengyang, Luo Shong, or Xiongnan, they were all trembling slightly. Luochen Mountain was a family, and the head of the family was the very ordinary-looking old man in front of them. Feng Haochen put down the hoe in his hand and looked at his disciples with a smile. He brushed the dust off his body. "You're back. Are you hungry? I'm going to cook. Who's going to help me with the fire?" "Master, we don't." Chengyang wanted to say something, but stopped. They had too many questions in their hearts that they wanted answers to. "Let's talk after dinner." Feng Haochen walked out of the vegetable garden and smiled. "The vegetable garden has been abandoned. I thought one of you would help me clear the soil and weed." Mu Yu and the others felt a wave of guilt. When the young eagles began to spread their wings and flew out of this home, who would still remember the vegetable garden that had raised them? Tian Ran silently looked at that person in the crowd. She didn't want to disturb this peace, nor did she want to say those words. She just quietly looked at her father with endless satisfaction and a smile on her face. Familiar faces stood on the grass of Luochen Mountain, and Shu, Chengyang, Luo Shong, Xiongnan, Lan Ling Mu Yu, Tian Ran, Kong Kong, Miao Miao, Dummy, and Little Shuai. No one was missing. Even Lan Ling had returned. Dummy ran over and grinned with its big white teeth. "Master, Dummy missed you very much. Dummy, have you reflected on your mistakes?" Feng Haochen asked, blinking his eyes. Dummy scratched its head. "Dummy hasn't died. Dummy is alive and well." Everyone had a smile on their faces. Dummy was simple and honest, so silly that it was cute. Feng Haochen shook his head helplessly. "If you haven't reflected on your mistakes, then forget it. Since you're here, you can't lose your temper as you wish. Do you understand? Dummy will be very obedient." Dummy nodded desperately. "Dummy, we're going to poke the hornet's nest. There are a lot of hornet's nests on Luochen Mountain. Do you want to come along?" Little Shuai shouted. Kong Kong and Miao Miao had already been running around the mountain with Little Shuai. The 3 of them together could make a mess of Luochen Mountain, gradually revitalizing the dead Luochen Mountain. "Okay." Dummy ran away in a silly manner. It had just said that it would be very obedient, but then it had forgotten. Feng Haochen said casually, "Mu Yu, there's no more food in the house. Go get some vegetables and radishes. Luo Shong, help me with the fire. Xiongnan, go find some game. Tian Ran and Ling you two go wash the dishes. Chengyang and Anping, you two go clean up." Everyone suppressed the doubts in their hearts. There was still a long way to go, so there was no need to rush now. They all consciously went to do their own tasks. Lan Ling and Tian Ran were busy, helping to carry the plates and utensils. Mu Yu washed the vegetables and went to fetch a bucket of water. He found a rag to clean the dust on the table. They all had powerful strength, and with a little shake, all the dust would be cleaned up. However, no one used their spiritual power. They were eager to find something to do, and no one wanted to be extra. "White-bearded old man, where's my roasted duck? I want 2. Xiao Shuai rushed into the kitchen and said excitedly. Feng Haochen laughed and said, "I roasted 10 of them. Chengyang and the others even caught a wild boar back. I was worried that it wouldn't be enough for Dummy and you, so I asked them to catch 2 more. That's great, love you Muax. Xiao Shuai danced and ran out to find Kong Kong and Miao Miao. On the dining table, a sumptuous dinner was laid out. Everyone sat in the seats that used to belong to them. Dummy sat on the big chair, while Xiao Shuai sat directly on the table, holding the roasted suckling pig happily with tears in his eyes. However, Mu Yu and the others didn't move their chopsticks. It seemed that after they came back, everyone had become less talkative. No one took the initiative to speak. This isn't like you guys. Didn't you guys fight over food as soon as it was on the table? Feng Haochen asked. The time of the past seemed like a lifetime ago. Everyone had grown up. They were less immature and more mature. No one was willing to rush back and forth with chopsticks. No one was the child who didn't know anything about the world. However, Mu Yu suddenly picked up his chopsticks and gave Xiong Nan a look. Xiong Nan, let's team up. Xiong Nan was slightly stunned. He hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Okay, let's go against Big Brother together. Cheng Yang also hesitated for a moment. He was already holding his chopsticks in his hand. He seemed to want to set an example. His chopsticks were already moving towards a piece of meat. However, Mu Yu's chopsticks followed closely behind, knocking away Cheng Yan's chopsticks. Tian Ran also began to move towards Mu Yu's chopsticks to help Cheng Yang. Tian Ran, you should help me, Mu Yu said quickly. No, it's too much for the 2 of you to team up. Tian Ran pouted. The chopsticks turned into phantoms and intertwined on the table. More and more meat was in their bowls. Luo Shong calmly picked up some meat from the chopsticks and gave it to Lan Ling Kong Kong and Miao Miao shouted, it's not fair. They all snatched it. We don't have anything. We don't have anything. Mu Yu glared at Kong Kong. He had just picked up a big bowl for Kong Kong, and this guy was still yelling about how unfair it was while eating. They were snatching, but they consciously controlled their spiritual power to the foundation establishment stage. It was as if everyone had returned to the beginning. No one would let themselves go too far. After a round of fierce fighting, whether it was Master and Shu, or Kong Kong and Miao Miao, everyone's bowls were filled with meat. Mu Yu and the others did not have much food in their bowls, so they all snatched and gave it to others. Their plates were already empty. Xiao Shuai shouted, don't snatch my roast duck. I'll glare at whoever snatches it. Dummy bit a roast leg naively and asked, Xiao Shuai, can I eat a duck butt? Kong Kong and Miao Miao cheered with their mouths full of meat jerky. And Shu ate his food expressionlessly, as if he was already used to all this. Lan Ling considerately poured everyone a glass of water. Feng Haochen smiled happily with an indifferent expression. You guys have been fighting for a long time, but you don't have much in your bowls, Lan Ling said. Mu Yu and the others looked at each other and smiled. They were not fighting for food. They were just reminiscing about the past. Familiar people doing familiar things, and the atmosphere seemed to become more familiar. Everyone was eating their own food. Because of Xiao Shuai, Kong Kong and Miao Miao's quarrel, the meal became joyful and harmonious. The catastrophe of the 3 continents was not worth mentioning at the dining table. Many of the doubts in their hearts suddenly became less important. What was important was that the people from the past were still there, and the atmosphere of the past was restored. This was what everyone wanted. After the meal, everyone consciously cleared the bowls and chopsticks. Xiao Shuai, Kong Kong and Miao Miao said that they would help to weed the vegetable garden. In the end, they pulled out all the seedlings that had just been planted. Mu Yu could only help to clean up the mess. The sun set in the west, and the afterglow of the setting sun shone on Luo Chen Mountain, giving everyone a layer of halo. It was pleasant and melodious. Everyone was not satisfied with their houses. Xiong Nan and Mu Yu were responsible for renovating the houses. With Xiong Nan around, building houses seemed to be a piece of cake. He could get any kind of stone. All the houses were repaired by him and looked brand new. Everyone also built a huge house for Dummy. Dummy liked to be big, so Mu Yu made him a big bed and furniture to match his size. No one asked where their master had been these days. Everyone was trying their best to find something to do. They did not want to let themselves be idle. Ever since they left this place 10 years ago, everyone had been working hard to become stronger in the cultivation world. No one had been idle. Tian Ran sat in the open space in front of the house and watched Mu Yu and Xiong Nan renovate the house. She did not mention anything about her father and daughter. It was as if she had long forgotten about it. Feng Haochen walked over and sat next to Tian Ran. He looked at Tian Ran with a smile. "I thought you would bring your mother too." Tian Ran opened her mouth and lowered her head. "Brother Xiong Nan said she's fine. We just wanted to know if you really... You won't call me Dad?" Feng Haochen asked. Tian Ran gritted her teeth and looked up at the person in front of her. She asked softly, "Can I?" Feng Haochen patted Tian Ran's head and said, "Silly girl, what's wrong with that? I was wondering if you would blame me." Tian Ran hugged Feng Haochen. Tears suddenly fell. She did not say anything. She just hugged him tightly, afraid that he would leave again. Feng Haochen did not say anything. He just smiled faintly. At night, the night breeze blew. Everyone gathered at Luochen Cliff. They enjoyed the breeze and looked at the stars in the village in the distance. Feng Haochen sat on a deck chair. And Shu sat on a chair next to him, fanning himself with a cattail leaf fan. Xiao Shui, Kong Kong, and Miao Miao were on a swing. Dummy also wanted to play on a swing. Mu Yu made one based on Dummy's body shape. Xiong Nan was still lying on the stone slab, looking up at the stars. Mu Yu sat on a tree branch. Tian Ran sat next to Feng Haochen. Cheng Yang sat outside the cliff. Luo Shong and Lan Ling leaned against each other. Although there were still many unanswered questions, they seemed insignificant at the moment. Chapter 1159. The stars were accompanied by the moon, shining down on Luochen Cliff. The wind rustled the leaves of the old banyan tree. It was as if this was no longer a world of swords, but a peaceful farmyard. "You have many questions. Speak," Feng Haochen said casually. His tone was calm, and his expression was relaxed. Mu Yu and the others looked at each other. They had too many questions, but they suddenly realized they didn't know where to start. After so many years, the wandering child had a lot of things he wanted to say. But when he saw his master, he found that the bitterness in his stomach suddenly disappeared without a trace. They had left the Moyun mountain range and had been searching for their master all these years to save him. Now, everyone was gathered together again. This was the scene they had worked so hard to see. Now that everyone was gathered, they were very satisfied. Why should they care about the so-called truth? Feng Haochen looked at the vast starry sky and said, "In the past few years, I went to a layer of heaven and dissolved my life force. Even the life force and death aura of the underworld grass will take some time for me to deal with. If I don't control my life force well, this world will be destroyed." "So you haven't fallen into Bai Jie's hands?" Mu Yu asked. Feng Haochen smiled and winked at Mu Yu. "I have to thank you for reminding me. I have been on guard against him for a long time." "I reminded you? When?" Mu Yu was surprised. The others were puzzled. "You reminded me last time at Heaven's Descent Reincarnation Peak. Have you forgotten?" Feng Haochen smiled. Heaven's Descent Reincarnation Peak? Mu Yu had once reached Heaven's Descent Reincarnation Peak on the Sea Demon King's Island through the Demon Ceiling Pagoda. There was a pavilion halfway up Heaven's Descent Reincarnation Peak. Mu Yu had seen his master's young appearance in that pavilion. His master said he was someone who lived in the past and guarded the entrance to time and space. He had also guided Mu Yu through the cave and back to the past. "Back then, you told me to be on guard against Bai Jie of the Threefold Palace. At that time, I was thinking, I was the one who established the Threefold Palace, so why should I be on guard?" "I have never understood this point," Feng Haochen said. "The Threefold Palace was built by Master?" Mu Yu and the others looked at each other. "How did you build the Threefold Palace?" Everyone was shocked. How did the Threefold Palace come about? How did it fall into Bai Jie's hands? They couldn't understand. Feng Haochen said helplessly, "I only established this organization and made it their responsibility to protect the safety of the human race. When the human race is about to be destroyed, they will stand up and protect us. For example, When human and the Yarrow race want to exterminate the human race, the threefold palace will have to do something. Other than that, the threefold palace will not interfere with the self-cultivators. Unfortunately, things are unpredictable. In the end, the threefold palace's current master, Bai Jie, was controlled by the soul race. And Shu said, the rules of this world were established by the sect master. This world is sealed off, and the threefold palace is to protect this rule. In other worlds, the human race is the lowest race. In terms of physique and lifespan, they are far inferior to other races. They are basically slaves. Therefore, the sect master brought the human race to this world 100,000 years ago and let them live in this world. As long as the human race reaches the grand ascension stage, they can go to other worlds because only then will they not be oppressed by other races. Everyone was shocked. The rules of this world were established by Master. So if they wanted to re-establish the rules of this world, it meant that they had to break Master's rules with their own hands. Xiong Nan couldn't help but say, but Master, you have the power to cover the sky with one hand. Why don't you rule everyone together? You can clearly become the supreme ruler of the human race, can't you? Feng Haochen shook his head slightly. The ruler of the empire? That doesn't sound like what I want. A person with a peaceful nature would not want to rule the world. Cultivation was about cultivating one's state of mind and becoming the person one wanted to be. Feng Haochen had never thought of ruling the entire threefold heaven. That was not in line with his temperament. I prefer to let the human race develop on their own. Although the human race is the weakest among the 100 races, they have the greatest potential. Therefore, I want them to create their own rules, and I don't want to interfere with them all the time. If the entire world is ruled by my swordsmanship, how boring would that be? They should have the ability to create their own things and invent more interesting abilities, whether it's swordsmanship or magic spells. A colorful and dazzling array of skills is the true world of cultivation. Feng Haochen said slowly. Everyone fell silent. Their master had a carefree heart, but he also had the heart to care for the world, which made them feel inferior. None of them could do that. Even Mu Yu, who wanted to live a carefree life, did not want to protect the world when the human race was killing each other. But their master was different. His master saw further than them. Mu Yu thought of the matter at the Demon Island and continued to ask, but Master, you said that you live in the past, and people in the past do not know what will happen in the future. So, how did you know that I was at the heavenly birth reincarnation peak? Feng Haochen stroked his white beard and looked at the shining stars in the sky. He sighed. There will always be someone who transcends the laws of time and is not limited by the laws of time. Perhaps I am that person. Mu Yu was stunned. So you remembered my words at that time? Then why didn't you kill Bai Jie from the beginning? That way, the human race would not have to face this calamity. You told me the name of Bai Jie, but Bai Jie was originally a human. He was only controlled by the soul race. Even if I killed him and replaced him with someone called Li Gaodan to preside over the threefold palace, Li Gaodan might also be controlled by the heavenly keeper. Then, your enemy in this calamity would be Li Gaodan, right? Feng Haochen said with a smile. Everyone laughed. Their master's words were easy to understand. What was important was not who the master of the threefold palace was, but who the heavenly keeper would control. At that time, I wasn't very sure how the heaven's keeper had come to this world. I considered sealing this world to prevent future troubles, so I could only think of the long term and let this matter happen so that I could completely protect this world. Most importantly, I had to protect you. Feng Haochen looked kindly at Mu Yu. Protect me. Mu Yu was puzzled. His master allowed this to happen just to protect him? Feng Haochen sighed. Time is a very strange law. I am not affected by it, but your strength is not enough, so you will be limited by it. Occasionally, I would go to the future to see this world through the heavenly birth reincarnation peak. The future is diverse. Many times, a tree or a butterfly inexplicably dies, leading the future in a different direction. I knew the warning you gave me in the future, but I was worried that if I accidentally changed something, you might die. I took in a disciple, but he suffered because of me. Wouldn't that be unfair to him? Muyu opened his mouth and felt touched. His master did not want to rely on his own methods to change the future, but only to prevent him from getting into trouble. Dummy asked naively, why did the future change when the butterfly died? Xiao Shuai interrupted, so stupid. Let me give you an example. For example, a group of people went hunting in a valley and unfortunately entered the territory of a ferocious demonic beast. However, this demonic beast left its territory 2 hours ago in order to catch a butterfly. Therefore, these hunters are safe. Dummy, you accidentally killed the butterfly 2 hours ago. If the butterfly did not fly to the beast would not leave its territory. At that time, the hunters would rush in, and the beast would eat the hunters. One of the hunters was Muyu's ancestor. After 18 generations, Muyu would give birth to a little Muyu. However, because Dummy killed the butterfly, all 18 generations of Muyu's ancestors died. If they could not give birth to a little Muyu, there would be no little Muyu, and the future would change. Do you understand? Xiao Shuai's examples were very crude, but they were easy to understand. If you saw what was going to happen in the future, then any vigilance now could accidentally change the future. Xiao Shuai, do you want to die? Can't you use Dummy as an example? Muyu wanted to strangle Xiao Shuai, this bastard. Every time he gave an example, he would not be able to give birth. Last time, when he explained to Long Ting why the past could not be changed in the spacetime reincarnation, he also used Dummy as an example. Xiao Shuai muttered, aren't you the target of protection? Dummy suddenly understood and looked at Muyu sympathetically. Muyu, then I will not catch butterflies in the future. Otherwise, it would not be good if I ate your ancestors. I want to protect small animals, and protect Muyu's 18 generations of ancestors. Why did Dummy's words sound like he was scolding people? Muyu felt a headache coming on. He couldn't get angry at Dummy at all, because with Dummy's intelligence, it couldn't understand what Xiao Shuai was talking about. It was just using its simple mind to take things out of context. The others could not help but laugh. They were amused by Dummy's frankness. Muyu said again, but if you let me live like this, it would be unfair to all the humans in the 3 continents, wouldn't it? If you sacrifice me, perhaps not so many people in the 3 continents would die. Compared to all the humans in the 3 continents, Muyu's life should not be important. Feng Haochen smiled and said, I can't interfere with the timeline. You met me on the Sky Evolution reincarnation peak, so your existence is the normal development of time. You should live as a person who originally appeared. That is the right thing to do. If I sacrifice you, things might not develop in a better direction. It might be worse. This is uncertain. No one can control the future, not even me. I can go beyond the heavenly axiom, but I can't control the future. There are too many possibilities in the future. A small action can lead to earth-shaking changes in the future. I can't gamble. Chapter 1160. Feng Haochen reached out his hand and gently picked up a leaf. He threw it out. The leaf floated with the wind and floated out of Luo Chen Cliff. It floated into the dark night and disappeared. He said, even if I pick up this leaf, it will change the future. If this leaf floats on top of a demon's head and disturbs its sleep, it might go berserk and attack other demons. When other demons escape, they will destroy many precious alchemy herbs. It will cause a series of problems. This is changing the future. Any decision or action we make at the last minute will cause different changes in the future. But even I can't be sure which demons and people will change under the influence of this leaf, so I can't control the future. Dummy said naively, does that mean I can't even play with the leaf in the future? Xiao Shuai laughed. That's right. Dummy, you have to be careful in the future. You can't even step on an ant. Okay, I will only poke a hornet's nest in the future. Dummy looked obedient. Feng Haochen shook his head helplessly. He looked at Muyu and continued, so I would rather protect you and let the white world come in. After making sure you can survive, I will investigate how the Soul Clan got through my blockade. Before that, I did some things to ensure that I wouldn't interfere with you but would leave you a way out. For example, I let Dummy take Wenshin lead to the ancient battlefield a long time ago to wait for you. I think you will eventually reach there because you have Xiao Shuai to accompany you. Dummy and Xiao Shuai will walk together. Yes, Master asked Dummy to wait for you, Mu. Dummy made a mistake at that time, so Master let Dummy make up for it. Dummy scratched its head. Feng Haochen let Dummy wait for a person called Mu Yu, but after many years, the silly Dummy remembered him as Mu Yu. How many years did Dummy wait? Tian Ran asked. Dummy didn't wait for Mu Yu first, but for Tian Ran first. Thanks to Dummy, Tian Ran was fine. Dummy started counting with its fingers. Dummy waited for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 3,921 years. Dummy destroyed a layer of heaven. That's his punishment. At that time, I couldn't think of a way to settle him down. If he came to the third heaven, I was worried that no one would be able to control him. Although he was kind-hearted, he didn't know much about the world. His brain was a little slow, and an unintentional mistake could lead to a disaster. But now that you guys are here, it doesn't matter. Just keep an eye on him, Feng Haochen said. Compared to the thousands of years of life of the alien race, a human's lifespan of 100 or 200 years was really insignificant. Dummy was also a race that was on the verge of extinction. It was the last member of the giant beings. It had an almost unlimited lifespan and powerful strength. This was also the special characteristic of Dummy's race. But you made Dummy wait for me. Isn't that the same as interfering with the future? Mu Yu asked again. I said that the future can't be interfered with only between the time when I saw the future you in the past and the time when you went to the Demon Island to see the past me. I must make sure that you can come to the Demon Island to see me. That way, the timeline will be normal. Otherwise, if I interfere with something, you are likely to not be able to come to the Demon Island. In that case, the matter of you seeing me at the reincarnation peak will only become a memory of mine, and not the people and things that exist in the real timeline. The ancient battlefield and the third heaven are sealed worlds. What happens there won't affect here. Even Dummy doesn't know how to leave there. After you leave the Demon Island, I will naturally start to interfere with what happens. I wanted the third layer of heaven to exist well, so I needed to guide you. At that time, Bai Jie also came in, so I wanted to find a better guardian for the third layer of heaven and not let it be taken over by the outsiders, so I had to make some preparations to interfere with this matter. Feng Haochen explained very patiently. After a pause, Feng Haochen smiled and said, Sometimes I feel that I am quite clever and can think of many possibilities. This catastrophe may be stopped by me, but it may not be stopped. It is mainly related to my cultivation. If you don't find the underworld grass, I may not be able to live in this form. The future is uncertain. If I interfere at will, things may get better, or they may get worse. I have to know how the heavens enforcers came in. Only then can I seal their escape route. If the human race wanted to live in a safe place without the alien race, they had to make the third heaven into a flawless fortress. However, the third heaven was a huge place. If he wanted to completely seal it, even Feng Haochen couldn't do it perfectly. Accidents were bound to happen. For example, Akatsuki broke free from the seal due to the disappearance of the immortal confinement prison in the Moyun mountain range, causing a hole to appear in the crack of heaven and earth. Feng Haochen protected this world for 100,000 years. He used his life force to protect this world. For 100,000 years, the alien race couldn't destroy the third heaven human race. It was only when his cultivation was exhausted that the heavens enforcers dared to send people to plan this matter. If it wasn't for Feng Haochen, the third heaven might have ended up like the second heaven, becoming a desolate place. Tian Ran handed Feng Haochen a cup of tea. Feng Haochen took a sip. The tea's fragrance lingered, and the aftertaste lingered. It is not enough for me to protect this world alone. The human race has to go through calamities. Only through calamities can they be reborn. Some calamities are fated to be unavoidable. However, calamities are like this cup of tea. It is sweet after the bitter. Only after experiencing it will they understand the flaws of their race. Otherwise, they will only know how to kill each other for their own benefits. They won't understand that there is always someone better than them. They will be like frogs at the bottom of a well, without a sense of racial crisis. They will be unable to withstand a single blow from the alien race. Today, the entire third heaven was cheering for their rebirth. Because of the Sumeru sun-changing diagram, everyone knew the truth of the matter. Everyone knew how cruel the alien race was. They also knew that their current lives were not easy to come by. They also knew who had protected this world. However, time would always pass. What happened today would only be a legend thousands of years later. Legends always felt unreal. Perhaps the same mistake would happen to the human race again. Some people would choose to lose their memories again. They would be ungrateful and attack the true God who had protected them. At this time, only calamities could make them remember the mistakes they had made today. Calamities were always an effective way for people to grow. Therefore, there were some calamities that the human race had to go through. Now, it seems that my decision was correct. Not only did I find a protector, I also found a few. Feng Haochen looked at his disciples. How you want to treat the human race, I don't want to interfere. You are also a member of the human race. What you want to do is also a possibility for the development of the human race. However, I still hope that the human race can survive in their own way. After all, you are already standing at the peak of this world. You know more than anyone else. The more you know, the greater the responsibility. Luo Shong, Xiong Nan, and Mu Yu all sighed. When they learned that their master had used his own life to protect the human race, they no longer had any plans to control the human race. This was because everyone in the third heaven was related to their master. Then what kind of existence is the heaven's keeper? Mu Yu asked. Just what kind of existence was the heaven enforcer? This was the question everyone had in their hearts. Even Bai Jie obeyed him. Such an expert who ruled over so many foreign races, why did he have a grudge against a human from the third heaven? Feng Haochen said, the human race is very weak, but they have a lot of potential. They also have a variety of emotions that other races don't have. The Heaven's Keeper discovered that the human race's emotions can become the source of power for other alien races. Be it pain, excitement, sadness, or despair. The human race's emotions are the most abundant, including the body and the soul. They are all excellent cultivation materials. Just like how we treat demon beasts and use their skin, hair, bones, and flesh to make cultivation pills, the alien races want to do the same to us humans. Therefore, they want to exploit the human race. The Heaven's Keeper is the king of the other races. He believes that he is the heavens, so he calls himself the Heaven's Keeper. Feng Haochen's words caused everyone's expression to change. It turned out that in front of the alien races, humans were like demonic beasts in front of humans. No wonder those ugly alien races often called humans a lowly and despicable race. Thinking about how they casually slaughtered demon beasts for their inner cores, bones, and hearts, the human self-cultivators treated demon beasts as a lowly race. And in the eyes of the alien races, there was no difference between the human race and demon beasts. The human race is only physically weak. Once they cultivate, they are not inferior to the alien races at all. At the same level, the human race's strength is not inferior to the alien races. In other words, the development of the human race is restricted. The Heaven's Keeper does not allow the human race to cultivate and treats them like livestock. The human race has always been resisting. Therefore, I brought the human race to the third heaven a long time ago and let them settle down here, away from the invasion of the alien races. I also used a formation to seal off this world. If their cultivation base has not reached the Great Ascension stage, they will not be able to leave here. Feng Haochen's eyes revealed a trace of melancholy and a sigh. The human race was weak. Even if he had the ability to reach the heavens, it was useless. He alone could not guarantee the survival of the entire human race under the oppression of the alien races. This was because he could not watch over all of them. As long as the human race was alone and encountered those powerful alien races, they would be killed. Only by bringing the human race to this sealed world and isolating them could he ensure the continuation of the human race. Little Shui jumped into Feng Haochen's arms and pulled Feng Haochen's beard. He asked curiously, "White-bearded old man, you can't defeat the Heaven's Keeper?" Everyone was also curious. How could Sword Shadow Chen Feng, who had 9 heavenly swords, be unable to defeat the Heaven's Keeper? Chapter 1161. So that's how it is. No wonder I seem to have some messy thoughts in my head. Don't worry, I'll bring Muyu to fight him next time. I'll be in charge of holding the sword, and Muyu will be in charge of blinking. We'll definitely beat the Heaven's Keeper into a kneeling position. Little Shuai rubbed his palms together, not feeling that there was anything to be afraid of about the Heaven's Keeper. He even put his hands on his hips and puffed out his chest valiantly. "Little Shuai, can't you say something nice? What do you mean by blinking? Why does the life and death blink domain sound so lacking when it comes out of your mouth?" Muyu laughed involuntarily. Every time something came out of Little Shuai's mouth, it would always sound different. It was clearly a powerful life and death blink domain, but Little Shuai would always make it sound like a blinking eye. However, Muyu also recalled the time when Little Shuai used the heavenly sword to display his might during the battle with Hong Lian. At that time, Muyu had pried into Little Shuai's memories. In order to save his master and protect the world, Little Shuai had resolutely charged forward. Although Little Shuai was not very reliable, he was very loyal at the critical moment. He had charged forward to save his master without any regard for his own safety. Because of this, he had suffered serious injuries and lost all his memories. "You little brat, the Heaven's Keeper is not so easy to deal with. But then again, the Heaven's Keeper has also suffered serious injuries like me. He should not have recovered yet, but I'm not much better off. If he makes a comeback in the future, I'll have to rely on you guys." Feng Haochen looked at Muyu and the others and said. He had lived for countless years, and before meeting them, he had never taken any disciples. Muyu and the others were his first batch of disciples. He knew that his judgment of people was not wrong, and the way he taught his disciples was also different from others. He treated the sect as a big family, so every child who left home would remember their roots. "We will." Cheng Yang nodded solemnly. As the eldest senior brother, he would always take responsibility for his master. Even when he doubted the hypocrisy of the human race, he chose to believe in his master. Cheng Yang then looked at Muyu and the others, hoping that his 3 junior brothers could set an example. Muyu didn't answer immediately. There was a question in his heart that he couldn't figure out. After a moment of silence, Muyu asked, "Master, why do you trust the human race so much? You should understand that not all humans are worth protecting." This was what Xiong Nan, Luo Shong, and Cheng Yang were wondering as well. However, Cheng Yang had always buried this question in his heart and never touched it. However, Muyu asked for everyone. He was also a human, but when he thought about it from the perspective of the human race, he found that the human race wasn't very satisfactory. His Shifu had always wanted to protect the humankind, but many times, Muyu was confused. There were so many selfish and ungrateful people among the humankind, who even chose to submit to the non-humankind in order to survive. What was the point of protecting human beings like that? Protect them so that they could live and then harm their own kind in the future. The incident at Dongsho City had shaken Muyu's faith. Even if he could revive Xian Jingtang and his family, how many times could he revive if the same thing happened again? If he didn't kill all those selfish cowards, the world that Muyu wanted to see would never come. Feng Haochen smiled. "I trust the human race because the world created by the human race is harmonious. We humans won't be as unreasonable as the non-human kind. Perhaps there are flaws in the human race, but in general, humans are kind. Most people know what's right and wrong. There will always be a small number of degenerates in this world. There are degenerates in every race. We can't deny the beauty of the human race because of these degenerates." Feng Haochen looked at the starry sky. "Perhaps I can kill all those ungrateful bad people who are afraid of death, but good and bad are relative. If there are no bad people, how can we judge a person to be a good person? If everyone is a good person, will there be a new standard? For example, there will be good people and bad people. When that time comes, in the world of good people, will there be conflicts between good people and bad people? It's like if we're all good people, why should there be a difference in status? In this world where strength is everything, it's impossible to completely eliminate the conflicts between people. Feng Haochen's eyes shone with wisdom. Then in the future, when you discover a new conflict, will you go and kill those people to resolve it? It's too difficult to live in a great harmony society. Wherever there are people, there will be all kinds of conflicts. You'll never be able to interfere with these conflicts. Those people you want to kill are indeed stains on the human race, but it's also because of their existence that the human race will understand how to act in order to be a better person. The stains must be wiped away, but it's not done by us who stand at the peak. Instead, it's done by people who are at the same level. The human race is a race with great potential. They develop by constantly correcting their mistakes. Those cowardly, selfish, and ungrateful people are like a mirror, allowing the human race to see the flaws in their own race. Those stains will eventually be eliminated in the human race's development. Constantly eliminating and developing, that's the human race. Mu Yu and the others couldn't help but be moved. Perhaps the only person who could see through the human race so thoroughly was this great and ordinary old man in front of them. The righteousness of the human race made people afraid. Without a broad mind, it was difficult to do that. Before Mu Yu left Flowing Water Village, he wanted to be like his master. He didn't want to disappoint the village chief, so he worked hard to become an immortal. He fought hard to defeat human, but now that he was so strong, he could no longer be like his master. He could see the good in some humans, but he couldn't forgive the bad in others. Feng Haochen could. He was always tolerant of the good and evil of the human race. I want to kill all the ungrateful people, Mu Yu said. Back then, the human race believed the words of the threefold palace. They overturned the statue of the true God and slandered the true God. Even if Jian Ying and Chen Feng could forgive them, Mu Yu couldn't. It was the same for Xiong Nan and Luo Shong. Xiong Nan's only goal was to destroy the threefold palace and avenge his family. However, while he was fighting for this goal, he realized that the humans were the stumbling block. With the humans around, the threefold palace could not be destroyed. Thus, he took a different path and embarked on a different path from his fellow disciples. As for Luo Shong, he had always believed in his master. If it weren't for the words Mu Yu said when they met in the desert of Clearwater City, which shook his confidence in the human race, he wouldn't have left Chengyang and walked the path he wanted to walk. Even now, Luo Shong and Xiong Nan couldn't let go. Feng Haochen waved his hand. You don't have to do anything to the ungrateful people. There will definitely be people from the human race who will stand up and suppress them. Everyone has the right to punish those who betray their race. You're not the only one who wants to kill them. Everyone has seen the true colors of some people in this disaster. Those who beg for mercy from the foreign races can't live on. Mu Yu, your intention isn't to kill people. You just feel that it's unfair for me. I think you'd rather look at the world optimistically. The reason we work so hard to cultivate and become strong is to live the life we want. We don't have to go around begging for help. We don't have to live under the nose of others. We don't have to be bullied. We can protect the people we want to protect and be with the people we like. We don't have to care about the rules of the world. We are the rules. Since we've already reached this level, what can't you let go of? Mu Yu's lips moved. He remembered his original intention, and his heart was slightly moved. He wanted to kill, but the ultimate purpose was to feel that his master was not worth it. But his master's words also made him see things clearly. When he wanted to use violence to solve the problem, he had already forgotten what he wanted the most. What he wanted the most was to return to the old Luochen mountain and live a carefree life with his family. He wanted to resurrect Deadwood Daddy and let Deadwood Daddy live for him once. He worked so hard to cultivate because he wanted to be able to do what he wanted to do. He wanted to be able to protect the people he wanted to protect. He didn't have to constantly be bullied by others, and he didn't have to worry about being a prisoner. However, now that he had achieved it, he realized that he had already lost his original intention. Whether it was Mu Yu, Luo Shong, or Xiong Nan, the three of them didn't ask any more questions. They were all thinking about what they wanted. Did they want to rule the world and get rid of all evil people? Or did they want to return to Luochen Mountain and be themselves? What was the purpose of cultivation? Did they want to become stronger and stand above everyone else, so that they could call the wind and summon the rain? Would they be able to feel at ease after achieving all these goals? If they became an emperor one day, they would seem to have limitless glory, but they would have to work hard to establish their own empire of rules. The rules they set had to be upheld. If an emperor was busy maintaining order and suppressing those who disobeyed him, he would no longer be an immortal. He would be a snobbish layman. What was the purpose of cultivation? Cultivation is to cultivate the heart. If your heart is satisfied, you are an immortal. Fenghouchen resolved everyone's doubts. If you let your heart be satisfied, you are an immortal. They would be in constant fighting and jealousy over trivial matters. They would frame each other for the sake of gaining the favor of their elders. They would kill each other for all kinds of treasures. They would never be satisfied and would always have more desires. That wasn't an immortal. It was a person blinded by greed. The sentence Fenghouchen told his disciples the most was, "As long as you are worthy of your heart, you are right." Immortals were supposed to be free from the distractions of music, free from the burden of official documents. They would wander between mountains and rivers, watch the sun rise and set, and go wherever they wanted to go. Wherever there was injustice, they would stand up for justice. If anyone was blind, they would just teach them a lesson. There was no need to hold it in and do something that a gentleman could take revenge for 10 years. If there was anger, they would vent it. If there was hatred, they would take revenge. Mu Yu and the others had already reached this realm, so they should have no desires. Chapter 1162. Chengyang looked at Enshu in awe and asked, "Enshu, are you really Ranhengshi?" Everyone also looked at Enshu. They didn't know that Enshu was Ranhengshi. They didn't expect Enshu to be a great ascension stage expert. Thinking back, they used to complain that Enshu's cooking was bad. Now that they thought about it, they really didn't know how to appreciate favors. A great ascension stage expert was actually disdained to cook for them. If people knew, they would be scolded to death. But thinking about it, they used to eat the food cooked by a true god every day. Who had such an honor? Enshu said indifferently, "It's been a long time since someone called me Ranhengshi. But since you have such a powerful cultivation, how did you end up in the immortal confining prison?" Xiong Nan asked. Enshu said, "I used spirit extinction no immortal to seal my cultivation. Immortal confining prison wouldn't kill me. I don't want this world to not have a decent guard by the side of a true god. When immortal confining prison was broken, I followed sect master's instructions and left the third layer of heaven to find the lost heavenly swords. There were 2 heavenly swords that were used to guard some powerful wild beasts. However, they were taken away by the heaven enforcer. I went to take them back. Yes, Sister Meow Meow and I showed off our might and took care of that reckless foreign race." Kong Kong waved his little fist and said with a grin, "Don't listen to his nonsense." Brother Kong Kong was cheering Enshu on the whole time. He didn't help at all. Meow Meow said, "What about you, sister? You didn't even cheer him on." That's because he didn't need to cheer for Enshu to take care of him. Enshu's spirit extinction no immortal is not a joke. Kong Kong and Meow Meow still hadn't solved the problem of who was the elder brother and who was the elder sister. Neither of them gave way to the other. Xiao Shuai interrupted, "Mu Yu also knows spirit extinction no immortal. He comprehended Martial Yu's super invincible myriad domain and learned many people's domains. I taught him personally." Mu Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He was already used to Xiao Shuai's shameless temperament. Enshu glanced at Mu Yu and suddenly said, "When can I test your strength?" "Enshu, let's not do that. Let's use spirit end without immortal together. None of us can use spiritual energy, how boring." Mu Yu quickly shook his head. No matter what, he was always in awe of Enshu. He didn't want to fight with Enshu at all. "All right, let's do it tomorrow. Whoever loses will be responsible for cooking for everyone." Enshu happily decided for Mu Yu. Kong Kong and Meow Meow were scared silly. They quickly winked at Muyu and shouted, "Muyu, you have to think twice before you act." "Oh, no, think twice, think twice. Anyway, think more about the consequences." Kong Kong and Meow Meow cried. If Shu lost, they would be finished. How could they still eat? Chengyang and the others also stared at Muyu with warning. Although they didn't know Shu's true strength, they couldn't win against Shu no matter what. Otherwise, they would be condemned by everyone. Muyu opened his mouth but was speechless. Feng Haochen smiled. "Muyu, what do you call that domain?" "Martial Yu's super invincible myriad domain," Xiao Shuai impatiently interrupted. Muyu automatically ignored Xiao Shuai's words and said, "Master, I named it Imperial Universe." Feng Haochen nodded thoughtfully. "Controlling the universe, the domain you've comprehended is very special. It's not as simple as it looks on the surface. It's one of the most difficult domains to master. I didn't expect you to be able to comprehend it. One day, when you completely master this domain, you might be able to defeat the Heaven's Keeper." "Master, do you have that much confidence in me?" Muyu was a little embarrassed by the praise. Yu Qian Kuan can control other people's domains. As long as you have seen a domain, he can easily imitate it without any restrictions. When you meet more Dacheng stage cultivators, you will be able to use more domains. The heavenly Dao rules are numerous and each domain is a rule. As long as you have enough time, you will be able to control all the heavenly Dao rules. This is the strength of this domain. Feng Haochen gave Muyu a very high evaluation of his domain. Everyone looked at Muyu with admiration. What Muyu lacked was time. Luo Shong said, "Master, then what is your domain?" Feng Haochen stroked Xiao Shuai's head and smiled. "This little guy is my domain." Everyone was shocked. Even Xiao Shuai was shocked. "Old man, you said I am your domain? Are you serious?" Xiao Shuai scratched his butt and asked curiously. Muyu was also shocked. Although he knew that Xiao Shuai was very special, this little guy who only knew how to eat, drink, and play all day and was only responsible for cheering and scratching his butt from time to time, was actually his master's domain. This little guy is a very special existence. I used the 9 heavenly swords to guide the Tao. The 9 heavenly swords comprehended the true spirit and created this little guy. It is the strongest spear and shield in the world. It is invincible and indestructible. Nothing can destroy this little guy or block his claws. Even domains can be directly broken by him. When he returned to the heavenly swords became an unstoppable weapon in the world. Even the 9 primordial Dao artifacts could not stop it. Feng Haochen pinched Xiao Shuai's cheeks. Everyone looked at Xiao Shuai with eyes full of respect. When they defeated Bai Jie, it was because of Xiao Shuai and the heavenly swords combined. No one would forget that sword. Muyu thought of the past with Xiao Shuai. This shameless guy would usually lie in his arms and sleep. Occasionally, he would accidentally block an attack for Muyu. Xiao Shuai would jump out and touch his butt and curse. However, Xiao Shuai's claws were really strong. At least, Muyu had never seen anything that Xiao Shuai's thin claws could not cut open. If there was, then it could only be Xiao Shuai's body. However, Xiao Shuai was muddle-headed. When he went out to cause trouble, all he thought about was eating. This made Muyu feel very depressed. Xiao Shuai's eyes lit up. He sat on Feng Haochen's lap and said proudly, "Old man, you have good taste. I was wondering why I liked you so much. The two of us are so handsome that no one has ever seen us before. We are a perfect match." Muyu and the others felt a burst of helplessness. Their master was clearly a very serious expert. Why did his domain become such an indecent oddity? "Muyu, the Gomang in your body still has a consciousness, right?" Feng Haochen looked at Muyu. When the Gomang in Muyu heard Feng Haochen's words, he felt an inexplicable sense of fear. Muyu hesitated for a moment. Only then did he remember his promise with Gomang. He would return his life to Deadwood Daddy, then let Gomang's consciousness attach to Red Lotus body and die. "Master, Muyu wanted to say something but stopped. Deadwood Daddy destroyed his own body and did not allow Muyu to revive him. This meant that he had not fulfilled his promise with Gomang. However, he still had a knot in his heart. I can help you separate Gomang's consciousness. You are luckier than the others. Your body has been modified by the netherworld grass life force and death force, forming a balance. Therefore, even if you separate Gomang, you will still be able to live. However, you will not be able to use wood control in the future, Feng Haochen said. Mu Yu's eyes lit up. The spiritual energy in his body was indeed balanced between black and white. Even he did not expect such a result. Does that mean you won't be able to use the blink of life and death technique in the future? Tian Ran asked. I have Imperial Qian Kuan. I already know the rules of the blink of life and death technique. Mu Yu felt a sense of relief. Back then, in order to save Tian Ran, he made a promise with Gomang. He thought that he would have to pay a price, but he did not expect that the netherworld grass that almost killed him would instead help him create a balanced body. So Mu Yu has been a person with eternal life for a long time? The 10th person with eternal life in the third heaven? Cheng Yang asked. Although he, Luo Shong, Xiong Nan, and Xiao Shui were also people with eternal life, the original 5 of them only counted as one. When Gomang was separated, that was the case. Feng Haochen nodded. However, the atmosphere suddenly fell silent again. This was because on this mountain, including Dummy, Little Shui, and Kong Kong Miao Miao, were all people with eternal life. Only 2 people were not. Tian Ran and Lan Ling. Everyone realized this point and tactfully shut their mouths. It's okay. The future is still long, isn't it? Tian Ran giggled as she held Feng Haochen's arm. Feng Haochen patted Tian Ran's head lovingly. You're just like your mother. You're both very optimistic. After a while, he said to Mu Yu, time is also a type of rule. I'm outside of time, but I can't control time. However, you have Imperial Qian Kuan, so you can control time. Do you understand? Mu Yu was suddenly enlightened. He thought of someone. Master, Array Tiandao is also in the Mahayana stage, right? Mu Yu remembered that Array Tiandao survived by relying on the flowing water at fingertips. Feng Haochen said, he's only half a step into the Mahayana stage. Back then, he wanted to understand the rule of time, but that rule is not something that ordinary people can understand. He only succeeded halfway. You can try, because your Imperial Qian Kuan can fuse his understanding together. If I'm not wrong, his soul is still trapped in the flowing water at fingertips. Mu Yu's eyes lit up. The flowing water at fingertips wasn't just a formation, it was a domain. However, this was an incomplete domain. Although Mu Yu had seen it before, an incomplete domain was useless. If Array Tiandao's soul was still in the flowing water at fingertips, it meant that he could revive Array Tiandao and ask him about the flowing water at fingertips. He could perfect it himself. If he could succeed, he could even let his family live forever. Okay, Uncle N, I admit defeat for tomorrow's competition. I think I have to prepare for something more important. Mu Yu said seriously. Okay, Uncle N, I admit defeat for tomorrow's competition. Kong Kong and Miao Miao both gave Mu Yu a thumbs up. It's okay. We're all immortals. We have plenty of time to learn from each other. Tomorrow, I'll test Chengyan's cultivation. Whoever loses will cook. And Shu said slowly. Cheng Yang was startled. Everyone was petrified. What was the point of this competition? Who would dare to win against Nshu so openly? If Nshu lost, he would have to taste Nshu's terrible cooking forever. That would be a fate worse than death. First brother, you must think thrice, think 4, think 5 times before you act. Kong Kong and Miao Miao said in unison. Cheng Yang noticed that everyone was looking at him with hostility. He helplessly touched his forehead. Chapter 1163. Luochen Mountain suddenly became lively. Green Dragon Monster King, White Ape Monster King, Chu Bukyu, Tan Qingchuan, and all the other Mahayana realm cultivators came to visit the true god of the third heaven. Everyone was respectful to Feng Haochen and did not dare to be arrogant. Even Green Dragon Monster King lowered his proud head in front of Feng Haochen. There was only one exception. This person would never admit defeat to Feng Haochen, even if he was not as strong as Jian Ying and Chen Feng. On Luo Chen Cliff, Ku Mu, who was in his soul state, looked coldly at Feng Haochen, who was sitting on a chair. I thought you could stop this catastrophe, Ku Mu said coldly. This catastrophe is already over, isn't it? Feng Haochen smiled. But you didn't stop it. You could have protected those innocent people from dying. Ku Mu's tone was stiff. Stepping into this place was already the biggest concession he could make. I thought you knew me, Feng Haochen said. I'm not interested in knowing you, Ku Mu said. Feng Haochen was not angry at Ku Mu's rudeness. He continued, I can't protect this world forever. The third layer true God has to go through this catastrophe. Most importantly, Mu Yu has to survive. I think you want him to survive more than anyone else, don't you think? Ku Mu's lips moved, then he snorted. Did you give him a satisfactory answer? Ku Mu asked again. I don't think he will reject me. Feng Haochen nodded. Mu Yu sat on the old banyan tree branch. Hey, Master, Dad, I'm here. I'm not invisible. You can ask for my opinion. Be quiet. Don't interrupt when adults are talking. Ku Mu glared at Mu Yu. Mu Yu opened his mouth and touched his head. He was the key to this matter. Why did he become an outsider? He can defeat the Heaven's Keeper. Ku Mu looked at Feng Haochen again. He's the only one who can defeat the Heaven's Keeper, Feng Haochen said with a smile. I'm that powerful? Mu Yu looked at Ku Mu thoughtfully and then looked at Feng Haochen. He then said, oh, by the way, I'm flattered. Ku Mu ignored Mu Yu and continued to ask, is it because of the compatibility between him and the sword spirit? The 9 heavenly swords were the most powerful existences in the world. In their current state, the tacit understanding between Little Commander and Mu Yu was tighter than anyone else's. Mu Yu was able to unleash the power of the 9 heavenly swords. However, Feng Haochen shook his head and said, no, it's because of his domain, Imperial Universe. I think you know what this domain means. The old tree gave Mu Yu a meaningful look and slowly said, it means the heavenly Tao. Yu Chenkuan could control all the domains under the heavens. The heavenly Tao encompassed all domains. If one day Mu Yu could control all the domains, then he would be the heavenly Tao. But that will take time, the dead tree continued. Time is also a type of law. Have you forgotten? Feng Haochen laughed. Water flowing from my fingertips, I understand. Ku Mu nodded slightly, but the water flowing from my fingertips is incomplete. The heavenly array Tao couldn't comprehend it even after spending its entire life. If he chose another domain, he could have stepped into the Great Ascension stage long ago. Unfortunately, he's afraid of death. Being afraid of death is human nature. There aren't many people like you who don't care about life. Feng Haochen praised. Ku Mu didn't feel proud because of the praise. He just looked coldly at Mu Yu and said, maybe Mu Yu used Yu Chenkuan to comprehend the water flowing from his fingertips. Cultivating with the water flowing from his fingertips for 10,000 years would be just a blink of an eye in the outside world. If this kid can endure loneliness, then he can indeed become the heavenly Tao. But I don't think he can do it. Hey, don't look down on people, Mu Yu said. Is that so? You left to cultivate and came back. To us, you only left for a blink of an eye, but to you, it means that you won't be able to see the girl you like for 10,000 years. I want to know if you can stand loneliness. The corner of Ku Mu's mouth revealed a faint smile. Mu Yu opened his eyes wide. 10,000 years. He had only lived for 20 years. To be trapped for 10,000 years was simply too tragic. Don't think too much. First, grasp the water flowing from your fingertips. As for how long you want to cultivate, that's up to you. It might not be 10,000 years. The heavenly enforcers won't expect you to have Yu Chenkuan's domain. Others can only cultivate one domain, but you can cultivate all of them. That's why you're so powerful. When you master all of them, you can easily defeat the heaven enforcer's domain, said Feng Haochen. When that day comes, does it mean that you won't be able to disobey me? Mu Yu asked curiously. Feng Haochen blinked and said kindly, my domain is a bit special. It transcends the 10,000 worlds and isn't bound by the heavenly Tao. Have you forgotten, little commander? I'm the father of the heavenly Tao. I'm a bit bigger than the heavenly Tao. If the heavenly Tao doesn't listen to me, I'll beat it to death, Kumu said without hesitation. Mu Yu laughed. A year's time passed in a flash. There were many things to be done in the 3 continents. The human race's life also gradually returned to normal. This world was thriving, but time couldn't wash away the catastrophe from a year ago. Everyone still remembered the battle from a year ago. Northwest Barren Lands, Clearwater City, Mu family courtyard. Mu Tianhe was in high spirits as he looked at the huge Mu residence. This place had become a holy land in the cultivation world. The Mu family was the #1 residence in Clearwater City. Many people came to curry favor with the Mu family. This made Mu Tianhe very happy. Mu Tianhe walked into a side courtyard. There were many people busying themselves in and out of the courtyard. There were all kinds of array patterns. The ground was filled with books. They were bright and beautiful and had an extraordinary aura. He found Mu Hao, who was checking the books in the crowd. He asked, how many copies of The Legend of the True God and The Legend of Mu you have been made by the Array faction? Mu Hao said with a serious face, 5 million copies of each have been made. They're being sent to the major cities for sale. Chun'an City and Lanshi City are selling very well. They're sold out. I'm communicating with Master Lu to ask him to send people to make another 1 million copies. Look, another 10,000 copies have been sent over. The teleportation formation in the middle of the courtyard lit up. Piles of books appeared. The Array faction was responsible for the support of array techniques, while the Mu family was responsible for the sales of the books. The division of labor was clear. These 2 books were written by Mr. Bu. I've told him that The Legend of Mu Yu and The Legend of the True God have been sold out. He's preparing to write a new biography. I think it's called The Rise of Hogwarts. What book is this? Why is the name so weird? I don't know. I think it's unbelievable too. Anyway, who can imagine it with Mr. Bu's brain? Maybe Mr. Bu wants to write about the wind and clouds of nature. Forget it, we must sell the biography of Big Brother Mu Yu and the True God well first. Mu Hao was 100% focused on the matters regarding the True God and Mu Yu. Uncle Mu ran in from outside and shouted, Old Master, it's not good. We want to change the name of Clearwater City to Yu Shui City. However, news came from Lanshi City saying that they want to change the name of Lanshi City to Yu Shui City. Now, the names are conflicting. I've already sent people to negotiate. The city lord of Lanshi City doesn't agree to change the name. He said that the handsome young master by Mu Yu's side personally agreed to it. Preposterous. Our Clearwater City is still Mu Yu's home. How dare he fight with us for the name? He must be tired of living. I'll go talk to him immediately. Mu Tianhe walked out of the courtyard with a face full of anger. 50 Li Garden in the south, hell on earth. Shimon Wuji and WNWN were yawning as they sat in the pavilion. They were watching that old man who didn't act like an old man and a woman on the surface of the water. My good disciple, where's the great strength pill? Xie Bulao's face was flushed red. He looked like he was having a hard time. Shimon Wuji lazily stretched out his hand and flicked a brown pill. Xie Bulao immediately bit it in his mouth. Xie Bulao's face instantly glowed with radiance. Master, where did you run off to? Jian Ying and Chen Feng came back a year ago. Why did you only come back now? WAN wasn't the least bit interested in what was happening on the surface of the water. Master went to another world to learn new knowledge. When I came back, I immediately came back to practice. I learned a new position called staining clothes 18 falls. Let me show it to you guys. Xie Bulao happily performed the staining clothes 18 falls in front of his 2 disciples. Shimon Wuji and WNWN both rolled their eyes. To them, the golden boy and jade girl of the devil sect, this kind of position was something that they had played around with for a long time. Master, that position is more comfortable with your feet up. Master, in this position, you have to grab that place. Yes, that's it. That round place. Array sect, Array Hall. Array Heavenly Tao stood on the sky stairway and overlooked everything in the Array sect. The sunlight shining on his body made him feel very warm. Ancestral Master. Zhuge Xiaosheng respectfully and excitedly stood behind Array Heavenly Tao. Fingertip water, fingertip water. I was trapped in the fingertip water for so long. Now that I can walk out, it's like a dream. Array Heavenly Tao sighed with emotion. Zhuge Xiaosheng said, Ancestral Master, you were right to hand over the Array sect to sect leader Mu Yu. Sect leader Mu Yu is indeed amazing. Xiaosheng, you should also focus on cultivation in the future. Leave the Array sect to Lu Dei. If our Array sect can have a third Great Ascension Stage expert, then the Array sect will become the strongest sect in the 3 continents. Array Heavenly Tao said. Zhuge Xiaosheng hesitated and said, But Ancestral Master, my aptitude is not as good as Ancestral Master and sect leader Mu Yu. I'm afraid I won't be able to break through the Great Ascension Stage in my lifetime. Don't worry. Mu Yu helped me perfect the fingertip water, so your lifespan is not a problem. A Great Ascension Stage aura emitted from Array Heavenly Tao. Ripples like flowing water covered Zhuge Xiaosheng's body. Zhuge Xiaosheng excitedly said, Disciple congratulates Ancestral Master for reaching the Great Ascension Stage. Disciple will work hard in the future and won't disappoint Ancestral Master. It's good that you understand. Our Array sect has too few experts now, but that might not be the case in the future. Chapter 1164. Danding Sect. Daoist Yuan De was leisurely lying on a rocking chair in front of the small house. His legs were resting on the stool as he squinted his eyes in satisfaction. 3 Danding sect disciples were massaging his legs and back with reverence. Sigh, I'm old and my legs are inconvenient. I really envy you young people. It's been hard on you. Daoist Yuan De sighed with emotion. Grandmaster, you must be joking. It's our honor to be able to work for Grandmaster, a young man said respectfully. The 3 disciples were extremely excited. Daoist Yuan De was an 8th grade pill master who was in the tribulation passing stage. Apart from Helian Kong, he was the most experienced person in the Danding sect. An 8th grade pill master was an unattainable existence to many disciples of the Danding sect. To these disciples, being able to come and massage the legs and back of this old immortal was simply a blessing that they had cultivated for 8 lifetimes. Everyone knew Daoist Yuan De's identity. Not only was he a tribulation-passing stage 8th stage alchemist, he was also the father-in-law of Venerable Deadwood. Venerable Deadwood was also the father of Mu Yu, who was currently worshipped as the second true god in the cultivation world. With this layer of relationship, if Daoist Yuan De casually ordered something, there would be countless disciples rushing to complete it for him. Not to mention something as trivial as massaging his legs and back, even if it was a mountain of blades or a sea of fire, there would be a large group of disciples rushing to complete it for him. These 3 disciples were extremely excited to be able to serve Daoist Yuan De. They all wanted to get familiar with this old immortal so that they could go back and boast to their fellow disciples in the future. If they could obtain a reward from Daoist Yuan De, then their ancestral graves would emit green smoke and fly straight into the 9 heavens. Little Zhao, use more strength. Yes, this is the right amount. It's more comfortable this way. Ever since the calamity passed, Daoist Yuan De's favorite thing to do the most was to flaunt his seniority. However, when he flaunted his seniority, everyone thought that it was natural. Originally, he had cultivation and strength, and Mu Yu, who would dare to say otherwise? Little Zhao said respectfully, Grandmaster, can you tell us about the past between you and Lord Mu Yu? Mu Yu's deeds were what everyone wanted to know. He was the hero who had saved the 3 continents. That heaven sword had left an unforgettable impression on everyone. When Mu Yu returned to Pill Cauldron sect with only the strength of nascent soul realm, Daoist Yuan De had a close relationship with Mu Yu. Daoist Yuan De stroked his white beard and said in all seriousness, Mu Yu and I are good friends despite the difference in age. Thinking back to when Mu Yu hadn't grown up yet, I was the one who took care of him. The 2 of us didn't keep anything from each other. He treated me like a senior. Whatever I wanted, he would get it for me. He would often travel thousands of miles to come here to talk to me and relieve my boredom. We got along well, good fellow. That's called harmonious. Really? Why do I seem to remember that he was being set up by you? I remember that he wanted to strangle you no less than 10 times. A voice sounded from behind Daoist Yuanda. Daoist Yuanda slammed the table angrily and stood up. Who is tired of living? How dare you gossip about the relationship between Mu Yu and me? See if I don't whip you to death. Daoist Yuanda just turned his head and saw Mu Yu's faint smile. His face immediately turned green and he hurriedly berated little Zhao and the others. Hurry up and leave. Look, didn't Mu Yu immediately come to talk to me? When the 3 disciples saw Mu Yu, all of them opened their eyes wide and were extremely excited. This time, they would have something to brag about when they went back. After chasing the 3 disciples away, Daoist Yuanda smiled apologetically and said, Little Mu Yu, we haven't seen each other for more than a year. Have you come to see me again? No, I was just passing by. When I heard that you were taking advantage of your seniority again, I stopped to take a look. Mu Yu yawned. Daoist Yuanda said indifferently, I'm the most senior person here. How am I taking advantage of my seniority? Are you looking for Deadwood? I'll go with you. I'll also go see my daughter. After saying that, he didn't care if Mu Yu agreed or not. In any case, he headed towards the green bamboo peak. Deadwood and Lung Bingxue had been living in a small bamboo house on the green bamboo peak. Daoist Yuanda knew that Mu Yu had been in seclusion for more than a year. This time, he must have come to look for Deadwood. Mu Yu didn't stop him. He followed behind Daoist Yuanda and arrived at the green bamboo peak. You're here. Deadwood sat on the top of the green bamboo peak and looked at the appearance of the Pill Cauldron sect. Now that the Pill Cauldron sect had been rebuilt, with the opening cauldron, no matter how many times the Pill Cauldron sect was destroyed, it would be restored to its original state. Father, I'm here to bring you good news today. Mu Yu sat beside Deadwood and looked at Deadwood's body and said, Father, you look more real with a body. Back then, you lied to me that you destroyed your body. Do I have to report everything I do to you? Deadwood gave a light snort. Now that he was a normal person, his body wasn't actually destroyed. He just didn't want Mu Yu to do anything stupid. Feng Haochen had helped him to use an array formation to avoid the restrictions of the blood protection shrouding the heavens. Because Mu Yu had become an immortal after Gomang left his body, he had unlimited life force. Therefore, it wouldn't be a problem for him to inject a part of his life force into Deadwood's body in the blink of an eye. Feng Haochen had sacrificed his life force to protect the entire human race. Mu Yu only needed to inject a part of his life force into Deadwood's body. As such, it didn't pose much of a challenge to him. Look at this heartless person. Not a single good word came out of his mouth. Mu Yu, do you want to hear what I did? This old man can report it to you at any time. Daoist Yuanda brought over a chair and sat down leisurely. Father, don't make trouble. What's there to report about all those trivial things you do all the time? Lung Bingxue brought over a table and a teacup before nodding at Mu Yu. Look at the 2 of you. You don't have any conscience. Daoist Yuanda spread his hands. What good news did you say? Deadwood asked. Mu Yu mysteriously stretched out his right hand. His fingertips reverberated with ripples that flowed like water. Water flowing from your fingertips. You've already mastered this domain? Deadwood asked in surprise. Yes. Although you have a body, you're not an immortal. The water flowing from your fingertips can change the flow of time around you. As long as I'm alive, you won't die. Mu Yu's hand slapped Deadwood's back. A water ripple entered Deadwood's body and disappeared. No flaws. Deadwood recalled how Array Heavenly Dao was trapped in a place and couldn't move after using the water flowing from his fingertips. The price of using the water flowing from Array Heavenly Dao's fingertips was very high. No, it's 100% natural and has no side effect. It took me a year to master it. I also helped him perfect this domain while I was at it. Didn't I come to you the moment I came out of seclusion? Mu Yu turned to Lung Bingxue. This way, the 2 of you can live forever. He slapped Lung Bingxue's shoulder. The water flowing from his fingertips entered Lung Bingshue's body and disappeared. Deadwood frowned. By doing this, we're consuming your life force, aren't we? Mu Yu nodded indifferently. It doesn't matter. My life is endless. It's fine to share some with you. This little bit of domain can guarantee that you won't age for 100 years. After 100 years, I'll cast the domain for you. Array Heavenly Tao also has this domain? Deadwood asked. He doesn't have an immortal body. At most, he can share his life with 2 or 3 people. If he wants to live forever, he can only stay in his own domain. He has to cast the domain wherever he goes and stop time. He has a lot of restrictions anyway. However, I'm different. It doesn't matter how many people I cast this domain on. Who asked me to have an immortal body? Deadwood heaved a sigh of relief. How many people are you going to cast the domain on? Not many. Zhuge Xiaosheng and Array Heavenly Tao will definitely help. I'll be responsible for Master Lu, Situ Yangtian, Tian Ran, my grandfather, my father, Uncle Mu, Elder Zun, Qingsong Taoist, Qingmai, Lanling and Mu Yu said playfully, Miao Yuyan of Luochen Mountain. Deadwood's face froze. He glared at Mu Yu and stole a glance at Lung Bingshue. Lung Bingshue lowered her head and poured tea, pretending not to hear. Xian Zhengtang's family and old city lord He Jinglong are also here. Senior Wu Ming, Daoist Chu Bukyu and his master can also do it. Cai Lai, Grandmaster Yao, Daoist Yundan. Anyway, I'll let whoever I like live forever. There's no need to reason. I'm just that willful. Mu Yu lay on a rock and crossed his legs, looking at the blue sky and white clouds in satisfaction. Feng Haochen's life force lived on everyone in the 3 continents. Mu Yu's life force only lived on a few people. In comparison, there was nothing to worry about. When Daoist Yuanda heard that Mu Yu could make people live forever, he immediately jumped up and went to Mu Yu's side. He said with a fawning expression, Little ancestor Mu Yu, we're so familiar with each other, aren't we? Why don't you do it for me too? But I don't find you pleasing to the eye. Mu Yu said with a faint smile. Daoist Yuanda hurriedly said, Look, Mu Yu, you just like to joke. You definitely can't bear to see Deadwood and Bingshue cry their hearts out when they send me off in the future. That's not good. Why don't you think about it again? Mu Yu tilted his head and asked, Dad, if this old man dies, will you cry your heart out? I won't. Dead Tree answered simply. You. Daoist Yuanda's face turned pale with anger. He grabbed his beard and wanted to rush over and point at Deadwood's nose to curse. However, he forcefully held back and sat on the ground with a sad face. He said, Alas, people's hearts are not what they used to be. People's hearts are not what they used to be. I'm already so old and there's no one to take care of me. I don't want to live anymore. Shuer, I'm going to reunite with your mother now. Don't miss me. Lung Bingshue looked embarrassed. She felt that it was really shameful for her to have such a father. Deadwood said to himself, it would have been better to let him be a fool with amnesia back then. Mu Yu said leisurely, Hey, old man, how about you hand over 10 8th grade pills, 100 7th grade pills, and 1,000 6th grade pills first. Then, I'll consider giving you 5 years of lifespan. How about that? Chapter 1165. Cut the crap. This is the price of family affection. 30% off. Forget it if you don't want it. Mu Yu said snappily. Daoist Yuanda gritted his teeth and stuffed all the bottles and jars in front of Mu Yu. He said painfully, I don't have that many level 8 medicinal pills. It's too difficult to refine level 8 medicinal pills. I only have 2. I don't have that many level 7 medicinal pills either. I only have 57. This is all I have. I'll give it all to you. If these medicinal pills were placed in the cultivation world, people would probably go crazy over them. After all, they were refined by the famous old ancestor Yuanda of the Danding sect. Unfortunately, Mu Yu was already used to it. He took all the medicinal pills without any hesitation. He patted Daoist Yuanda's shoulder and said maliciously, How straightforward. For father's sake, I'll give you 10 years of lifespan first. We'll talk about other things in the future. Daoist Yuanda's face was dejected. However, when he thought about how he had an extra 10 years of lifespan for no reason, he was also satisfied. Older people could not wait to live for 1 or 2 more years. However, he was extorted by Mu Yu again. His heart was filled with grievances. All right, father. I'll come to see you in the future. I'm going to look for Cai Lai and the others. After that, I'll go back to Luochen Mountain. Bye. Mu Yu stood up and patted Daoist Yuanda's shoulder again. He said with a smile, Senior, I'll give you a 30% discount this time. The next time we do business, I'll give you a 50% discount. I'm a businessman with a conscience. I'll be honest with you. We'll meet again. Mu Yu's figure disappeared from the mountain in the blink of an eye. Daoist Yuanda looked at Mu Yu's back in the distance and sighed, Deadwood, I've already admitted my mistake. Why don't you help me put in a good word with Mu Yu? How can an old man like me stand being extorted like this? Deadwood could not be bothered with him. Daoist Yuanda continued to be sad, sigh, it's fine if no one takes care of me when I'm old. Now, my son-in-law and daughter don't want me. I'm really pitiful. All right. You're already so old. Can't you see that Mu Yu's joking with you? He also gave you the same lifespan as us. The dead tree said impatiently. Daoist Yuanda, who was at the crossing tribulation stage, could not see how Mu Yu used his domain, but the dead tree, who was at the darching stage, could see it. In order not to be entangled by him, he simply told the truth. This old man liked to take advantage of his seniority, but he was still an upright person. Mu Yu naturally wouldn't let him die. Otherwise, who would the Pill Cauldron sect be going to harm in the future? Although he had no use for those medicinal pills, there was still the Mu clan. Daoist Yuanda was overjoyed. He stood up and patted the dust off his body. He coughed twice and said, I knew that little ancestor Mu Yu would not be as heartless as the two of you. Mu Yu is kind, unlike the two of you. Demon race, Willow Tower. The White Ape Demon King was rolling around on the bed with several coquettish chicken spirits, duck spirits, snake spirits, and pig spirits. The sheets were rustling and rustling. Suddenly, he was pulled out of the bed by a 15-year-old boy. He didn't even have time to put on his clothes. Little Azure Dragon, what are you doing? Do you want to be beaten? I'm trying out the staining clothes 18 falls that Xie Bulao taught me. What are you doing? The White Ape Demon King looked at Long Teng angrily. Long Teng said calmly, Uncle Ape, I want to find Mu Yu. Take me there. The White Ape Demon King said, No, Big Brother Azure Dragon said that you are not allowed to leave here until you reach the crossing tribulation stage. I'm here. Long Teng's body exuded a powerful aura of the crossing tribulation stage. He had been forced to cultivate in the demon race for the past few years. He had been bored. He wanted to leave again and again, but the Azure Dragon Demon King always refused with the excuse that the outside world was too dangerous. It was more important to be a rich second generation at home and inherit the family business. He also tried to restrict Long Teng so that Long Teng couldn't leave. However, Long Teng kept protesting and wanted to leave in various ways. Unfortunately, he was no match for the Azure Dragon Demon King. The old Dragon King finally had no choice but to tell Long Teng that as long as his cultivation reached the crossing tribulation stage, he could leave. Now that Long Teng had finally stepped into the Great Ascension stage, he came to find the White Ape Demon King. The White Ape Demon King said in surprise, Then why did you come to find me? To find the Azure Dragon. As he spoke, he wanted to crawl into bed. He's not here. No one can undo the restriction. Only you can do it, right? Long Teng asked. I can't undo it. The White Ape Demon King groaned. Then forget it. I'll go to Aunt Fong for help. By the way, I'll tell her that you called her a crazy turkey yesterday. She might also mention that you said you wanted to pluck the chicken's feathers the day before yesterday. I don't know what she'll think. Long Teng turned and left. The White Ape Demon King thought of the Phoenix Demon King's bad temper and his expression changed. He quickly drove away the chicken and duck spirits, put on his clothes, and said, Little Azure Dragon, wait. I'll take you to find that little bastard. By the way, We'll go to hell on earth. It's better than here. By the way, why don't you go with Xiao Shui? Xiao Shui secretly left this morning. Long Ting said. What? Damn it, she must have gone to find Mu Yu. But I heard that little bastard Mu Yu is still in seclusion. It's not good for her to go to Luo Chen Mountain alone. That's Jian Ying Chen Feng's territory. Let's go. Let's go support Xiao Shui. We can't let her be bullied. The White Ape Demon King pulled Long Teng and ran. Even if you go, you can't beat Jian Ying Chen Feng. Don't you want to go find that little bastard? Okay, pretend I didn't say anything. Luo Chen Mountain. Master, Dummy blew up the latrine again, Kong Kong shouted. It wasn't Dummy. Dummy was watching the ants move. Dummy hurriedly explained. Master, it was Kong Kong and Xiao Shui who did it. I saw it with my own eyes. Meow Meow also shouted. Kong Kong, I saw another hornet's nest in the back mountain. Let's go blow it up. Xiao Shui shouted excitedly. Dummy will go too. With Xiao Shui and Dummy, as well as Kong Kong and Meow Meow, the four of them could practically tear down Luo Chen Mountain. Every day, there would be all kinds of noise, causing the entire Luo Chen Mountain to be in a state of chaos. This was already the 38th time they had blown up the latrine. Xiong Nan, go take a look at the latrine. You might as well fill it up so that the four of them don't cause trouble every day, Feng Haochen said helplessly. Xiong Nan lay on a hammock between two trees and replied leisurely, Master, it's useless to do that. You've already used a formation to reinforce it, but with Xiao Shui and Kong Kong around, the formation is completely ineffective against them. Xiao Shui had learned a lot of formation techniques from Mu Yu and knew how to break them. Kong Kong and Meow Meow were both chaotic yin and yang. Now that they had grown up, they knew a thing or two about formations. Luo Shong and Xiong Nan had not left this place for the past year. They had once again settled down in Luo Chen Mountain. Feng Haochen had used a powerful formation technique to separate their original thoughts from Spirit Lord Yu Meng's, allowing them to return to their original selves. There was nothing in the cultivation world that could stop the two of them. Compared to the storms outside, the peace here was what they wanted. Feng Haochen seemed to have sensed something. He looked up at the sky and smiled. Looks like they're back. A ray of light flashed. What's so lively about? Mu Yu's figure had already appeared on Luo Chen Mountain. Everyone's here, and there's even dessert. It's so blissful to have Master's wife here. As he spoke, he hurriedly sat down on a chair, took the dessert from Miao Yuyen's hand, and stuffed it into his mouth. Slow down. Why are you in such a hurry? You're just like Tian Ran. Miao Yuyen was still as refined and elegant as a fairy. Why else would we be a couple? Mu Yu said nonchalantly. You've been in seclusion for a year. How's it going? Feng Haochen asked with a smile. Yes, Master, I've already mastered the flowing water fingertip. Mu Yu stretched out his fingers. Ripples appeared on his fingertips, just like flowing water. Really? Tian Ran sat down beside Mu Yu and held onto Mu Yu's arm. She curiously looked at the ripples and even reached out to touch them. Mu Yu scratched Tian Ran's nose and said, Of course. This way, we can be together forever. Tian Ran suddenly thought of something and snorted. Liar. Why did you take so long? Did you go find Xiao Shui again? Mu Yu's face turned green. Tian Ran's parents were right beside them. How awkward was this? If he dared to say a single wrong word, he'd be done for. However, Feng Haochen and Miao Yuyen didn't seem to hear him. They were focused on drinking the tea in their hands. Heaven and earth can be my witness. I've been in seclusion in the formation sect for over a year. I just came out today and I'm already back. I swear for. Mu Yu stretched out 4 fingers. It's useless even if you swear 5. Tian Ran glared at Mu Yu. Mu Yu, you're back. Cheng Yang and Qing Mai also walked out. Senior martial brother, you actually have a child. Mu Yu looked at the baby in Cheng Yan's arms in astonishment. He had only been in seclusion for over a year, and Cheng Yang already had a child. Cheng Yang smiled. Yes, it's a boy called Chengxing. Not only are we pregnant, Ling Er is also pregnant. Luo Shong and Lan Ling also walked out. Lan Ling belly was bulging. She was less domineering and more peaceful. Luo Shong supported her with a loving expression in his eyes. Ling sit. Mu Yu quickly stood up and gave his seat to Lan Ling Then, he picked up little Chengxing and played with him excitedly. Chengxing and Chengyang were very similar. They held each other's hands and giggled. They were very happy. This little guy will definitely be a good seedling in the future. Mu Yu stretched out his index finger and touched little Chengxing's fingertip. Mu Yu, you have to work hard, Lan Ling said with a smile. I'm not in a hurry. Don't we still have Xiong Nan? Senior martial brother first, Mu Yu said. I don't plan to get married for the time being. It's good to be alone. Xiong Nan shrugged, indicating that he didn't care. Stop pretending. What do you mean by going to Qingshou City to find her? Lan Ling asked. Xiong Nan suddenly blushed. Wait a little longer. Wait a little longer and she'll be married. Lan Ling retorted. Mu Yu quickly went over and asked, Senior martial brother, how did you meet her? When did this happen? What does she look like? Do you want me to give you a look? My taste is pretty good. Yeah, your taste is pretty good. Tian Ran kicked Mu Yu. Mu Yu smiled embarrassedly. He's known her for a long time. He hid it from all of us. He knew her before we left Luochen Mountain. I still remember that we often went to Qingshou City together. He went there for a tryst, Chengyang said. Senior martial brother, you promised not to tell anyone. There are no outsiders. I'm just worried for her. She's been waiting for you for so many years. Why are you still dragging it out? I heard that the matchmaker had already come to her parents to propose marriage 2 days ago. She's a virgin, so she can't wait any longer, Chengyang said leisurely. What? Xiong Nan suddenly jumped up. His eyes widened. He stomped his feet and disappeared from Luochen Mountain. Mu Yu saw Chengyan's half-smile and said, Senior martial brother, that matchmaker was you, right? Chengyang sat down slowly and shook his head. He's so silly. He doesn't dare to say that he likes someone. I have to help him. After a pause, Chengyang looked at Mu Yu with a half-smile. Do you want me to help you too? Mu Yu quickly shook his head. Senior martial brother, I'll do it myself. I'll do it myself. To be honest, sometimes Mu Yu felt that he was still a big kid. His favorite thing to do was to cause trouble with little Handsome. It was too early for him to be an adult. Tian Ran kicked Mu Yu. He looked at Tian Ran in pain. He quickly passed little Mu Yu to Chengyang and shrugged helplessly. Mu Yu, you're back. Do you want me to heat up the food? Elder Zun walked out of the kitchen and asked. No need, no need. I'm not hungry. Mu Yu smiled. If you're not hungry, then let's spar. I haven't had the chance to see how strong you are. Whoever loses will cook, Anshu said. Mu Yu quickly waved his hand. About this. Did little Handsome blow something up just now? I'll go check on him. You guys chat. Mu Yu did not want to fight with Anshu as soon as he came back. It would be strenuous and unrewarding to win. Moyun Mountain Range, outside Qingshou City. The old farmers were working hard in the fields. A few dark-skinned men were waving their hoes and opening up canals to irrigate the land. The water in the well is drying up. When is it going to rain? Second Master Wang wiped his sweat with the towel around his neck. He looked at the sky, took off his straw hat, and kept fanning himself. The rainy season hasn't come yet. We have no choice. We have to make sure the seedlings don't wither before the rainy season comes. Liu Guzi sat under a tree at the entrance of the village and drank the clear soup his wife brought over. Yes. In the past, it should rain next month. It won't be so troublesome then. Zhong family's eldest son pulled out the grass roots from the ground and threw them aside. On the path in the field, a girl in blue walked over slowly. She was elegant and gentle, like someone who came out of the water. She seemed out of place in the dry fields under the scorching sun. Hello, sir. May I know how to get to Flowing Water Village? Qiao Shui walked to the ridge and asked Second Master Zhong politely. Flowing Water Village. It's quite a distance from here. Miss, are you going to Flowing Water Village to visit your family? Second Master Zhong asked. Visit my family? Xiao Shui thought for a moment. Sort of, right? Then you have to walk 200 kilometers to the east. The weather is so hot. Miss, you can go to Qingshou City and hire a carriage. It won't be good if you get burned by the sun. Second Master Zhong jokingly took a puff of his pipe. Thank you for your guidance. Xiao Shui raised her head and looked to the east. There was a tall mountain blocking her line of sight. A small path circled around the mountain. She slowly got up and walked toward the mountain. Second Master Zhong looked at Xiao Shui's back and knocked Liu Guzi, who was in a daze, with his pipe. He scolded, "Why are you still staring at her? She's already far away. Hurry up and get to work." Liu Guzi grumbled. He picked up his hoe and looked in the direction Xiao Shui left. Then, he let out a soft cry of surprise. That beautiful girl had disappeared without a trace. That's strange. Where did she go? Liu Guzi looked around. But at this moment, dark clouds suddenly floated in the sky. Thunder rumbled and rain poured down from the clouds. It's raining. That's great. The farmers in the field excitedly threw down their hoes and cheered for the early rainy season. Flowing Water Village. Village Chief Old Bu was here. He still liked the life in Flowing Water Village. Ever since Mu Yu brought him back, he had never left. He liked to accompany children the most. When Mu Yu returned to Flowing Water Village, Village Chief Old Bu was still passionately telling stories to a group of children under the old tree in the grain sunning field. Every child held a copy of Mu Yu's Legend of the Hero and True God's Legend in their hands. They flipped through the books while listening to Village Chief Old Bu's passionate cries. Mu Yu smiled. He realized that he also liked this kind of life. The villagers worked at sunrise and rested at sunset. They discussed the growth of the crops. It was simple and ordinary. Chapter 1166. In the blink of an eye, our Mu Yu rushed over in time and fought 300 rounds with the immortal master. The sky darkened and the sun and moon lost their light. Mu Yu's two flying swords were like shocking heavenly thunder, specialized in judging good and evil in the world. When the heavenly sword appeared, sand and stones flew, lightning flashed, and thunder roared. It was almost impossible to open one's eyes. With a stab of the sword, the wind and clouds surged, and the sky fell and the earth cracked. The immortal master of the Great Dot Village was beaten into a sorry state by Mu Yu. He spat out blood and flew away. His blood dyed the dust and the sky red. The story of the third heaven ended here. I didn't know if I should continue writing. The reason was stated earlier. It was a miracle that I was able to write up to this point. At least, I had told you everything that needed to be told. As for things beyond the third heaven, I won't write about it for the time being. It wasn't difficult for Mu Yu to defeat the Heavenly Keeper. I don't know if anyone will like this book, but I really like the world I created. That Luochen mountain that stands aloof from worldly affairs is my ideal immortal cultivation land. It's like a big family, and the brothers live in harmony. Although the brothers have different beliefs, everyone sticks to their own beliefs and doesn't choose to harm each other. Luochen mountain is their fetters, and also the prerequisite for them to walk the cultivation world. I liked Chengyan's persistence. Even if he didn't understand what was good for humans, he only wanted to do what his master thought was right. I liked Xiongnan and Luo Shong's resistance. They didn't agree with their master's way of doing things and wanted to do their own things. But no matter where they went, they remembered that they were members of Luochen Mountain. Hurting their family was the last thing they would do. I also liked Mu Yu's persistence for his family. He struggled in his heart, but in the end, he decided to walk his own path. There was always a process for a person to change. It couldn't be done overnight. Many readers said, how could such a cultivation sect exist? Look at the cultivation sects written by gods. The villains couldn't wait to mock and frame the protagonist, then the protagonist would beat them in the face. That was the real cultivation world. But I have to say, why can't a cultivation sect like Luochen Mountain exist? Who made the rule that the sects in the world of immortal cultivators would really kill each other? Who said that there were so many fellow disciples who looked down on him and wanted to kill him? First of all, immortal cultivation was originally a world created by everyone. Was the self-mutilation of fellow disciples a real world? Have any of you been to that world? If there isn't, then why can't the immortal cultivation world be the way I created it? After I wrote out my ideal world, I no longer have any regrets. It doesn't matter if you like it or not. It has come to an end. I have to thank everyone for being able to see this. Regardless of whether you like it or not, at least you have finished reading my book. The ending was rushed because I had originally planned to write all the way to the 9th heaven until there was an accident. I had already explained the reason, so I started to wrap it up. But it was very difficult to wrap it up. I had been looking for the foreshadowing that I had buried, filling in all the holes. The plot was changed a lot, and in the end, it became like this. It was considered perfect. I won't write about the Heaven's Keeper anymore. Maybe I'll write about it in the future, but who knows? Some promises shouldn't be made casually. I'm a more realistic person. If I can't do something, I won't make promises. Muyu is a character I like very much. He is childish, but he is sensible. He values family very much. If there is no family, what is the meaning of immortal cultivation? The 7 emotions and 6 desires are inherent to humans. If you cut off these, you can't be called a human. You can only be counted as a living dead. So in my novel, there was never any mention of the so-called long road to immortality, the need to cut off the worries of the mortal world, or the protagonist kneeling in front of his parents and sobbing, "I'm going to pursue immortality. I'm afraid I won't be able to return. I'll kowtow to you 3 times blah 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 blah." No, that's not the protagonist of this book. Muyu is a simple person. He has principles for family, brotherly love, and love. He likes to joke. He used to be a child, so he has a child's temper. When children grow to a certain age, they will have a rebellious period. They don't like to listen to adults and talk back to adults. So when he sees Kumu, he always has bad things to say. Many people don't like Muyu's rudeness to Kumu. They say that he is very impolite to Kumu. But think about it, did you really not talk back to your parents when you were in your teens? When you talk back to your parents, do you really use that kind of polite tone? "I'm sorry, Dad, I think it's wrong for you to hit my butt with a broom." Children are the flowers of the motherland. You have to be reasonable. If my butt hurts, I won't be able to sit still and I won't be able to listen carefully in class. How can I get 100 points to satisfy your parents? If you're not satisfied, you'll hit me with a broom again. If my butt hurts, I won't be able to sit still and I won't be able to listen carefully in class. This is a vicious cycle that must be stopped. When everyone talks back, don't they use that kind of angry tone? "Mom, am I your biological son or not? Why don't you say anything? No, you were picked up in the toilet. I want to run away from home and travel to the ends of the earth with a sword. I want to go out and explore the outside world. See you at the police station tomorrow." When you talk back, the words you say are very hurtful. It's normal. Besides, in the beginning, Muyu and Kumu were not related by blood. Kumu forced Muyu to do something he didn't like. Since Muyu can't beat him, can't he talk back? In the end, it can't be changed. If they don't talk back, they won't feel comfortable. This also became a way for the father and son to communicate. But talking back is talking back. How can Muyu forget how good Kumu is to Muyu? They both understand each other. Kumu can use "blood cover the sky" to save Muyu, but Muyu only wants to return his life to Kumu. Life belongs to whoever. Muyu's principle is very simple. Muyu left Moyun mountain range when he was a child and looked at the world with a pure heart. He quarreled with little Shuai and happily caused trouble everywhere. He pretended to be a pig to eat a tiger. He was free and unfettered. If he could beat someone, he would show off a little. If he couldn't beat them, he would quickly run away. He didn't stare blankly or stubbornly. He was a good young man. But children also grow up. After Mu Yu massacred 100,000 people in Dongsho City, he began to grow up. He tried his best in Dongsho City. He wanted to save people, but after He Jinglong and Xian Zhengtang's family were killed, he could no longer adhere to his principles. I tried my best to write about Mu Yu's despair and struggle in Dongsho City. He wanted to be a good person, but good people don't live long. This is the reality. So he began to shake his childhood beliefs. He was ready to do his own things and walk his own path, deviating from the promise he made when he was young. In fact, how many people can really live up to the promises they made when they were young? When you are in kindergarten, the teacher asks you what you want to be when you grow up. You wipe your nose and seriously say that you want to be an astronaut, an inventor, a scientist, a police officer. Maybe some people can achieve it, but most people can't. Many people can only do jobs they don't like when they grow up. They work to make money and bury their dreams in the bottom of their hearts. Occasionally, when they think of their childhood dreams, they just laugh it off. Some people who dreamed of being inventors when they were young might be staying up late eating instant noodles and writing novels now. They are very miserable. But this is what he likes. Mu Yu left the Moyun mountain range and wanted to be a good person. He wanted to protect the human race and take the world as his responsibility. But in the end, he realized that he was too naive. So he only wanted to protect his family and friends. A man with an indomitable spirit should do his best for the human race and take the world as his responsibility. That is the sword shadow and dust wind, not Mu Yu. We can't be the sword shadow and dust wind, so we can be carefree Mu Yu. When we are happy, we will quarrel with Little Handsome. When we are unhappy, we will hug Little Handsome and sleep well. When the sun shines on our faces tomorrow, we will stretch and it will be a new day. Mu Yu's luckiest thing is that he has a muddle-headed Little Handsome to accompany him. Although Little Handsome only knows how to sleep, eat, and crawl into a girl's soft places. Most of the time, it won't help Mu Yu fight. But Little Handsome can give Mu Yu bad ideas. Although all kinds of bad ideas can't be realized, they can relieve boredom. Why does a pet need to be good at fighting? It's fine as long as it can cause trouble. I liked the incident when Mu Yu went to Clearwater City. He was involved, but he helped the Mu family with the mentality of a bystander. He knew that he was a member of the Mu family, but he didn't tell them. Although Mu Yu is optimistic people have obstacles in their hearts that they can't overcome. Many people are so optimistic that they don't have a heart, just like Xiongnan and Mu Yu. Mu Yu forgave Mu Tianhe, which is equivalent to him overcoming his own heart. When Mu Yu massacred the city, I tried my best to portray that kind of atmosphere. At the very least, I have that image in my mind. Walking in a mess, with branches rolling, and the setting sun like blood. If I were an artist, I would definitely draw this scene. Unfortunately, I only know how to draw matchstick figures. My matchstick figures are pretty good, and my drawing level is good enough to get an A+ in kindergarten. When Withered Tree came back to life, I thought about how Mu Yu would react. Would he be emotional? Would he cry? Would he hug Withered Tree for a long time without speaking? Or would he choke and call out Dad? In the end, I decided to let him face it calmly, just like yesterday's parting and today's reunion. At that time, Mu Yu had already grown up. He had learned to control his emotions when dealing with the power of massacre. Therefore, he greeted Withered Tree with a simple smile. However, when he found out that Withered Tree had destroyed his body, he couldn't help but go berserk. Withered Tree didn't have a son. He didn't like Sword Shadow and Dust Wind's disciple, Mu Yu. However, Mu Yu's personality was completely opposite to his, which made him slowly change. He changed to treating Mu Yu as his son and was willing to protect Mu Yu with his life. When Withered Tree treated Mu Yu as his son, his father naturally wouldn't let his son do anything stupid. Therefore, Withered Tree destroyed his own body. Withered Tree was unknown, but he was a hidden genius and a daring person. Some people only live for themselves, while others live for others. Sometimes, we also need to ask ourselves, what do you live for? If you cared so much about other people's evaluation of you and desperately tried to change your image in other people's minds, you would struggle for a long time with what others said. In order to cater to others, you would say something insincere. For example, even though the movie was so bad, because your companion liked it, you would go against your conscience and praise the male and female leads for having a good meal. The female lead's hairstyle was good, and the male lead's leather shoes were good. Then, you were living for others, and you were living a very tiring life. Couldn't he tell the truth like, there are 539 popcorn for 10 yuan, 32 people went to the bathroom during the movie, and 31 people didn't come back, one of the 24 lights on the ceiling was broken, a couple in the front row was not suitable for children, and the cinema is a place to have good dreams. Living for others, you might not be as lucky as Withered Tree. Withered Tree lived for his senior brother, Daoist Yundan, for the Danding sect, for Miao Yuyen, whom he liked, and to protect Mu Yu. He didn't care what others thought of him. He just wanted to do what he thought was right. Withered Tree lived for others, but he had Mu Yu, and you didn't. Therefore, I think that people still have to live for themselves. No matter what you think of me, I am a gorgeous firework. Why should I let you like what I wear and what kind of hairstyle I have? It's fine as long as I like it. There are so many people who don't like me, so you have to line up. Thinking is a bit strange, but it's more comfortable. Sometimes, I also think, what is the reason for us to study hard and work hard to earn money? What is the value of our lives? You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories,